What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Stokastic NFL DFS Sunday edition Divisional Round Strategy Show. We're taking you all the way up to 3 p.m. kickoff. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, and I am here breaking down the NHA slate, where we saw a ton of overlay in the pick'em contest, and they've got this cool versus the house mode. We've got all the tools you need to win big money. Breaking it down with me today for the first half hour of this deeper dive, live before lock extravaganza, is Geoff Ulrich. Find him at the Fantasy Grind. What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing good. Yeah, no, as he said, maybe a little anticlimactic day yesterday, but, solid day overall, and looking forward to these games. I mean, I think we're going to get two close ones. So happy to break this down. I still think this is one of the best weekends of the year for football. So I think we'll get a little bit better, more dramatic games today. We'll see.
Well, please, because we have the Giants essentially waving the white flag, punting the ball down 3 touchdowns last night. I know the Eagles are a good team, but my goodness, all these coaches, I still think Dable wins Coach of the Year, but it just, even with the injury to Mahomes, it didn't end up materializing for the Jaguars. And that NFC East showdown did not live up to the hype.
The AFC one should have been more dramatic than it was. And the NFC one, I'm not shocked. When you beat the Vikings, you get pumped up, and then there was just too much Giants hype this week. It kind of went as I thought it might, but the Jaguars, that was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought we were going to get an awesome ending to that game. I thought we'd get Trevor Lawrence maybe with the ball to score and win, but it never happened. Jamal Agnew, come on, man.
New fumble.
Turn the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully this Sunday slate, starting with this fantastic 3 p.m. Eastern game, the Bengals versus the Bills, the game that never was, finally getting to happen here. This should be a great day of football. We start with that Cincinnati-Buffalo game. It was up at 50.5 as a point total, now down to 48.5. I get it. People worried about that playoff style football. And then Dallas-San Francisco. Dallas can beat anyone if they play the way they did against Tampa Bay. But San Francisco, I called their offense, Geoff, a work of art. And that's what it is with this many talented, unbelievable all-pro players on that offensive side of the ball, and their defense in San Francisco, not too shabby either. Let's just take a few minutes here, talk about what our most likely narrative is for both games here. So I'll leave the floor to you. Start with that first game in the AFC, and then move us over to the NFC.
Yeah, so I really think that the Bengals, you look at what their rush game has done over the last couple of weeks, and that's nothing. I think Burrow, if he's going to win this game, is going to have to drop back more times than not. And I think Burrow will be the key to this game. If he can stay upright, if he can move the ball with his legs and just keep the Bills' pressure off him a little bit, I think that'll keep this game close. I do think there's a scenario where the Bills' defense is overwhelming and maybe doesn't allow that to happen. We've seen that with the Bengals. It hasn't happened for a while, but it's happened with the Bengals before, where their O-line just gets crushed. And Burrow can't do anything. And like I said, there's been no run game. So I think there's a little bit of a pocket here for the Bills to just, run this, just win this outright by a lot. But I think that the most likely scenario is we're talking about Joe Burrow. He's going to move the ball with his legs. He's going to drop back a bunch. And, the Bills, I think, are harder to predict in this game in terms of offensive production, because I think they're going to be able to do multiple things. And they're going to throw the ball to Dawson Knox, use 2 running backs. So when I look at it from DFS, I expect a little bit easier projections, because I think that Burrow and his receivers are in good volume spots, with the one outlier where, this could just get, they could be down a lot. But even when they're down a lot, the volume could get their guys. So I like projecting the Bengals receivers the most in this game.
And then if we move over to the NFC side, because remember, we only got a half hour here before we're out of here, giving things over to Laffy, Alex, the big boss, and Ben Rasa. And before Lock crew finishes us out here. But this NFC game, I heard before the show that you might be taking the Cowboys against the spread here. What are they, 3.5 point underdogs right now on the road in San Francisco against the undefeated Brock Purdy. But look, this is expected to be a lower scoring game. If there's any team that can bust us into the overland, it's definitely the way that Dak Prescott moved that offense through the passing game last week.
Yeah, this is super interesting. I'm almost more excited for this game than the Bengals-Bills. I think the Dallas defense is going to put some pressure on Brock Purdy in a couple different ways. I think they're going to really slow up the run game a little bit. It's the top 10 defense in DVOA versus the run. And I think if they do that, Brock Purdy's going to have to create more and just do a little bit more rather than just, throw to the open guy downfield. He can move the ball with his legs and like he will do that. But I think that the Dallas defense legitimately could force him into some mistakes. And I think that, again, like Dallas should have the edge here at quarterback. They've got CeeDee Lamb. San Francisco's they've allowed some monster games to wide receiver ones here. So very interested in how this plays out. I think it will be close. I think the Dallas defense is going to force Brock Purdy into some mistakes. And I see that one playing out very close. Now it's the Cowboys. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, the Dallas is like a live upset. I do like them on the spread. But we are, as you mentioned, like Shanahan finds a way, and down to touchdown or something, like he could easily get this team back in with a couple good plays. They have so many playmakers. So expecting a close game there though. Absolutely. I think that one will be close.
I do honestly think that this one is going to be a close game as well. And as you mentioned, if there is one weak spot, it is a strong spot for the Dallas Cowboys, that wide receiver position with Gallup healthy, with Lamb doing his thing. And now with T.Y. Hilton and Noah Brown, and Schultz, of course, able to help. I think from an NHA standpoint, and we're going to break down this slate from a no-house advantage perspective as we go on here right now. But I think the Cowboys present a ton of value, especially if you're looking at the passing game being good for Dallas. Then maybe you take some unders on some rushing props for players like Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard. We got almost 1,000 people hanging out already this morning. And, we got the heavy hitters coming up after us, Geoff. And I know some of you, you like to save that like button. You like to let it marinate a little bit, make sure that Laffy has to ask you once, twice, maybe thrice. But why don't we butter him up? Why don't we make sure we hit that like button, maybe get to 250, because I think we're about to cross that 100 like threshold. Yep. In fact, we just did. I think 250 is very reasonable with 800 plus people watching right now. I know it's early so far on this live before lock slate, but we're going to tell you how to break down NHA, which is the same stat projections for DFS platforms you've been using for years. And we got an awesome offer that's just been boosted by the great folks over at NHA. It used to be a $50 first match deposit bonus. Now they've boosted that up to $100 when you click the link in the video description below. And you might know it as prop betting in other places, but ultimately we're just choosing the over or under on these rushing, receiving, and passing props for these players. And you choose it by ranking confidence in the pick'em contest. So the number 10 score is the one you feel the most confident about, because if that's right, you're going to get 10 points. And you move on down the list for the 9-pointer, the 8-pointer, and so on down the list. A really unique way to play. Or if you're more interested in the similar to a parlay style, you can always click over to the versus the house mode over there, where you can win up to 21x your entry fee when you get all 5 of your picks correct. It is a really cool format. And again, it's not overwhelming in the way that you think, okay, like I'm moving over from a DFS perspective all the way to a sports betting perspective. We've got tools to help you over at Stokastic.com. We can give you our optimal lineups, or if you want to go into what are the best bets, we, of course, have those projections available for you. So everything you need to take down these pick'em or versus the house contests available for you here. It's just a really cool place to play. That's all I'm going to say. Let's dig into the action here. We've got in these pick'em contests where we focus a ton of our 30 minutes. We got 26 players on the board. We got 4 quarterbacks, 6 running backs. The rest are wide receivers and tight ends. So let's just start. Are there any quarterback props, Burrow, Allen, Prescott, or Purdy, that are just jumping off the page where you want to start people there maybe as a 10-point play?
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, absolutely. I mean, in terms of 10-point play, like ones you'd put high up, I mean, the Dak Prescott passing touchdown, 2.5. I could sit here and make a good contrarian argument for it. I really do. I mean, I think Dak Prescott is an underrated quarterback. I think if Dallas wins this game, I think there's a reasonable shot he goes over this. I mean, San Francisco's allowed 6 rushing touchdowns to running backs this year. Like they don't allow a lot of penalties on the ground. So if you want to play a lineup where Dak, Dallas is winning outright, maybe they're winning by a touchdown, they're putting up 30 points. Sure. Dak Prescott over 2.5 passing touchdowns. that's one you could consider. But straight up, the most likely scenario here is Dak Prescott goes under this. It's the second highest projected edge of the week, 79.9%. It's a big number. And is this going to be popular? Yeah, it's going to be popular. People are going to look at this and say, I don't want to take Dak Prescott against the San Francisco 49ers. So, but there's the thing about No House, like they always offer a few props like this, where the edge is pretty obvious, regardless of tools or whatever. And, you need to just pick and choose which ones you're going to roll with, because going against them all usually kind of it's not going to work out, because these are big edges for a reason. I mean, again, like San Francisco's a very good defense. We're going to get potentially a lot of running in this game. The defenses could just hold serve and we get a few punts in a row. So like this game could just not have enough plays for Dak Prescott to get over this mark. Right. So, like Dallas could score a defensive touchdown, things like that. So under 2.5 passing touchdowns, I feel pretty confident about that as like a high up play. I'm going to give you one, since we're talking about the quarterbacks, which you don't necessarily need to use high up, but I like it. And I like it from the standpoint of, you talked about this. We're talking prop bets here, but this is a lot of DFS strategy involved in the pick'em contests. And Brock Purdy over 0.5 interceptions. I just don't think many people are going to look at this and be like, yeah, I need to include this. But you got a Dallas team that led the league in turnovers. They bring pressure. It's legitimately the toughest test Brock Purdy has had to date. And it's in the playoffs. And I think that like Purdy's going to throw an interception. He's done it in 50% of his games. So it's not like we're going out on a limb here. He made some throws last week that easily could have been picked. I think that's a legitimate like midpoint play that you're going to get lower ownership on. And I think it's a good one. And I think you can kind of build around it for this game too. If you're thinking maybe he throws an INT, maybe you mix it with like a Deebo Samuel over or something like that in terms of receiving yards. Because again, interceptions create, put more pressure on the quarterback to throw the next time he gets the ball. But I like that Purdy over interceptions more as like a contrarian move.
That is a really interesting breakdown there. And with Dak, I think you have enough for a narrative-based argument that you could be contrarian and go over 2.5 touchdowns, just because if you look at the game log, it's been there, 3 out of the last 5 games?
Yep.
3, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, and then 4 against Tampa Bay last week. Look, I'm going to tell you what the math says. If you look at our optimal lineup tool, Dak Prescott under 2.5 passing touchdowns is the second highest in terms of percentages, in terms of our top 10-point play in our optimal lineups tool. It is extremely popular, but I think there is just enough there where, as you said, Geoff, if you're taking a DFS perspective on it and you're trying to be hyper contrarian, if you start with that over, it will shift the way you play all the way down the list. And of course, you can still take some chalky plays. We'll go into those in a minute, especially when we get to the running back position. But then Purdy at 1 interception, especially as like a mid-tier play, a 5 or a 6-pointer in the pick'em, makes all the sense in the world to me. One that was surprisingly high in our optimal lineups tool is the under for Josh Allen's passing yards, but that's because it's the highest passing yard prop available on the board. It's over 294, I believe it sits right now. 294.5 is his passing yard prop. And that's just a little lofty when you look at our simulations.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back again to like what Buffalo does on offense. I mean, this is not like, yes, they're explosive. Yes. Josh Allen has hit over 300 yards a lot, but like there's a lot of games where Buffalo scores 30 points. They put up a ton of yards, and like Josh Allen goes for 200 yards because he ran for like 70 yards, and Singletary ran for 70 yards, and Cook ran for 40 yards. Like there's just so many ways that Buffalo can beat you. And I feel like they're projected as favorites here. If they get up in the game, like there's less of a chance that you're going to get Josh Allen dropping back more. So yeah, I think in this spot as home favorites, and we should touch on the weather a bit. I mean, like there's snow involved. There's not a ton of wind, but it's probably more of conditions where Josh Allen running around a little bit. I actually quite like the under there. And again, like it's a 70% edge. Like this isn't like a slight over or anything, or under, excuse me. This is a pretty solid under for us. And like, I agree with this projection. As you mentioned, it really just comes down to the prop line. Again, this is a really big prop on any week for Josh Allen. So I think the conditions involved, the team he's playing, that's a pretty solid under for me. I mean, you can definitely make like lineups with where the, you're going over on the Bills passing game, but it's not my favorite move to do. I'd almost rather go to like the contrary move we just talked about with the Cowboys passing game before going to the Bills, to be honest.
I was surprised to see this as the season wore down. The Bills did get better defensively, moving more towards what we expected them to be at the beginning of the year. They just got healthier in the secondary. That certainly helped things. They ended ninth in Football Outsiders pass DVOA, and their pass defense for any NFL team just going to be more important in terms of their ability to win than the rush defense. The Bengals, to their great credit, 12th in Football Outsiders DVOA. They still gave up some big plays, though. 29th in yards allowed per pass attempt. Josh Allen should have some big playability. Not going to say the ceiling potential for all of you DFS players on other platforms out there. Certainly capable for Josh Allen. But this under for 294.5 looks really, really solid on NHA in pick'em contests. We move to the wide open, the sprawling wide receiver and tight end part of the board. And we just got a ton of great options. We'll go game by game here. Ja'Marr Chase is sitting at 90.5 receiving yards and 6.5 receptions. Just your inkling before you even look at our simulations, it's going to say, wow, it's pretty lofty against the Bills. How are you feeling there? And if you have a preference for Higgins at 68.5 or Boyd at 40.5, or maybe even Hayden Hurst, who's down there at 30.5, maybe let the people know about that. Cincinnati's got a lot of great options, and you can attack this a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, so I get, again, like you don't have to play all these as like higher point up plays or anything like that, but I do think that some of these targets on Cincinnati are interesting, like for lower point plays to mix in. If I'm looking at this as a whole, like I think Tyler Boyd actually makes for a really good under target. He's getting cut into by Hayden Hurst, who, when we look at his prop, they're just lower. Like his yardage prop is lower. I believe his reception prop is at 2.5. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. So, again, like this almost lends itself to, okay, we take the over on Hayden Hurst and we either just fade Tyler Boyd or just leave him out. I think at 3.5, we do have Boyd projected as like a 60% underplay. He's just a low ADOT receiver who, again, like I almost feel like he's going to need some kind of in-house injury to be really a factor in this game with T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase and now Hayden Hurst, who's averaged 5.5 targets his last two games. So he's kind of just been bypassed in this offense, whereas Hurst has the lower props. I think going over on Hurst is like a really good play to mix in, lower down in your lineups. He had 2 catches in like the first drive against Buffalo, which isn't like a big indicator, but it does kind of just let that's kind of how the Bengals have been using him. As their O-line has been disintegrating, it's kind of been more of these short routes to Hayden Hurst, which have been worked in more. So it feels like maybe that's a little bit of a, reaction to one thing happening on the team. Regardless, the team target share has been climbing for him. It's solid. I like the over there. If I'm looking at the two big guys, Higgins and Chase, I actually wouldn't have a problem going over on Chase 6.5 receptions. This is a player who averaged 12.4 targets over his last 5 games. That would have led the league if you extrapolated over the whole season. He's getting targeted at an insane rate. And he's not going to have a problem getting open because he's Ja'Marr Chase. The Bills secondary is good, but like he's going to get his targets. He's going to get his catches. I think there's a really good chance he goes over. We do have him projected as an underplay at 6.5. I understand it, but I'd be much more inclined to go against the projections, take an over on Chase. Whereas Higgins, 5 point, I just don't want to go over on T. Higgins. I feel like he's more of the downfield receiver. If the pressure gets to Burrow, he's going to be the guy who's going to suffer the most. So, looking at this game as a whole, factoring in everything, like the Higgins under, like the Boyd under, and like the Hurst over, probably the most out of all the receivers.
I think the Hurst over is a really interesting call. Looking at our optimal lineups tool and looking at what we choose in our simulations as that top play, that 10-point play in the pick'em contest, a lot of unders tend to be creeping up towards the top when you look at our sims. The one exception, though, that Hayden Hurst over, it's actually the highest rated over. So if you were going to take an over based on our simulation and make it that 10-point play, our recommendation might very well be that Hayden Hurst reception prop. So I really like that call. We move over to the Buffalo side. Diggs, another super lofty prop as well. I think I have it written wrong. I know Gabe Davis is at 54.5 at 3.5, Knox at 35.5, 3.5. I want to hear your opinion there. How are you breaking down the Buffalo side? Because it really has felt like teams are zeroing in on stopping Stephon Diggs and making anyone else, whether it's these players we're mentioning or John Brown or Cole Beasley, somebody other than Diggs beat them over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like you mentioned, Cincinnati does allow some big plays, and Diggs could come out of the gate hot, catch a 40-yarder, and all of a sudden, you're just behind the 8 ball. But man, there's just so much to work with on Buffalo that if you don't get that hot start, I mean, you're going to be behind the 8 ball here, man. Like 7.5 receptions, I think. And again, like we're working off the projections here, but it's important to note, like our reception under on Diggs is stronger than the yardage under. And if I'm taking one of them, I mean, I'm definitely going under on the receptions. There's just so much to work with on Buffalo. And Cincinnati as a defense, like complex schemes, they allowing Steph Diggs to go for 8 receptions, man, against Cincinnati, like I just don't see that happening. Like this isn't the Vikings where they're just going to allow a guy to just like go out there and like beat them all game and do nothing about it. Like the Bengals will shift. They'll do something. Like Zach Taylor will make a move. So I think that the under Diggs receptions is a very strong play. Like I really like that. The yardage one, it's big, and you could certainly go under on both. But again, if we're picking and choosing here, I think the Diggs under receptions is a very strong high point play. You could certainly mix in the receiving yards, but I would almost be inclined just to take the receptions and just move on. As far as the other guys go, yeah, I mean, Dawson Knox, what did we see yesterday? We saw 2 first touchdowns to tight ends. I don't know if it's going to happen again, but Dawson Knox, kind of like Hayden Hurst. I mean, he's a little bit up and down, but like strong second half of the year. Not really a player I'd be interested in fading. I don't know if you need to use him. We have quite a few props to pick from, but if you wanted to mix in like an over on Dawson Knox, I wouldn't be against it. I mean,
that makes sense to me. Sorry, we just got to keep it rolling because I realized we only got 3 minutes. We got to talk about the whole other game and the running back. So I want to talk about maybe your favorites here from Dallas and San Francisco. We got CeeDee Lamb up at 80.5. I think Dalton Schultz over 3.5 receptions might be my favorite there because Gallup and Brown still see like a mess to figure out. And then I'm going to take my shots at George Kittle overs as like a mid number plays, like between 3 and 6 on some lineups. And I'm surprised to see Deebo Samuel. Again, these are receiving props and sometimes he's a rusher, but he's only at 43.5. How about just rapid fire your 3 favorite props from this Dallas San Francisco receiving cores?
I really like the Deebo over 43.5. It's projected as an over. It's not going to be a shock play or anything. I think if you get contrarian in this game, CeeDee Lamb, it is a big total. It's 80.5. San Francisco is cratered against wide receivers in these spots all year. 100 yards and a touchdown to guys like Devontae Adams. CeeDee Lamb can get there. I think that's a really good contrarian move to go over. And then I would fade some. I think Gallup's a great fade. I just think, again, kind of like Buffalo, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and that's a big yardage total against San Francisco. So Gallup, I think, is a strong under as we have projected. CeeDee Lamb, really the contrarian target there for me. You want a low owned prop. No one's going to take the over 80.5 on that, I don't think.
And now let's move to the running back position. You don't have any sort of receiving or opportunity totals available to you in the pick'em contest, just straight rushing yards. Mixon at 56.5, Singletary at 47.5, Cook at 41.5. I'm burying the lead here. Under Ezekiel Elliott, 57.5 yards. If you're choosing one running back prop, maybe one prop to rule them all. And guys, those of you in chat who are just waiting for the big platforms, you guys should probably check out the overlay on these contests, the free money available, the extra deposit bonus. There's a reason we're doing this half hour. That's all I'm saying. Ezekiel Elliott, under 57.5 rushing yards. We have that as an absolute smash, a clear-cut 10-pointer option as well. How about other than that Elliott under? Are there any others that are really sticking out to you, or are there any others that you're staying away from in the high tier options?
Yeah, look, guys. I mean, I know you got like the big shooters coming up, but this is where the easy money's made. Like we do, like Matt said, we do this for a reason. Zeke, easy under in my opinion. It's our strongest projected prop. Again, if you want a little bit of a contrarian move here, because I like the unders on most of these guys today, and so do our projections. But James Cook, he's outtouched Devin Singletary in each of the last 2 games. Again, solid player. Like, he's had the big games. When he's gotten 9 or more touches in a game, he's gone over 40 yards. Cook can absolutely get there. I think that's another good contrarian move. You want to pair that with a Josh Allen under passing prop. Ooh. Great move, in my opinion. Great way to kind of correlate. Another
one I'm going with, McCaffrey's getting 73 plus rushing yards. I know he could do it in a variety of ways. I'm against you
on that, Matt. I think McCaffrey goes under.
You're going under.
We'll revisit next week. I think that's a great under. When Elijah Mitchell's around, McCaffrey's rush yards go down, man.
We will find out. We will see. We will leave it at that, guys. We have so
totally
much
going for an 80-yard touchdown on the first time.
right away. This was fun, man. You guys don't go anywhere, and I appreciate you all. We went 225 likes. Hit that like button on the way out. But of course, we got Laffy, we got Ben Rasa, we got the big boss Alex Baker, and then we got Eric and Matt closing it out with Lie Before Lock. And then later tonight, we got Josh and Eric back. We got a full day of sports this Sunday over at Stokastic. For Jeff, for producer Jordan behind the glass, I'm Matt. Have a great day, guys. Let's win some money.
Yo, it's that time of week again. Time to induct some of you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Give away some free subscriptions for a month to Stokastic Plus Platinum. And all you got to do to get your wonderful picture, screenshot, face, whatever it is up here, and your big win is download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame, Stokastic HOF. That'll get you right here, up on the board. We'll do the bragging for you. And also, you'll win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. Let's kick it off, see what we've got to work with on this fine week. First up, it's Bobby Nissan. Thanks for another big win. Special thanks to the boys for all the great content. $55,000 there and a $50,000 win in first place as well in the NBA Baller. Followed up by Anthony Jimenez. Giant shout out to you guys. I swear if it wasn't for the entire Stokastic team, I'd be broke. Appreciate the hard work with a $75,000 win. Second place right there. Little hockey action. Love to see it. And then S. Schaefer. Not the first time he's been on here. I caught a ride on the NBA takedown chop train in the $15 fadeaway on the 8th. Crunched my ticket using Stokastic's suite of tools. With additional analysis, thanks to Lie Before Lock and the crew. $3,090 there, another big win. And then how about Eric Johnston? Following this one up, these guys just don't miss. Another great night with Stokastic. You got $1,500, then you got $1,750. And if you look at the next one, it's Eric Johnston. Stokastic comes through again in the clutch, best in the business, second place in the 20K NBA putback for another $2,500. Huge week, Eric. Congrats, man. And how about Swaz or OZB with a $1,700 or $1,100 win on $46. $46 entered there. Over $1,400 in profit today. Binked on NBA tiers. Best day of my DFS lifetime. Congrats, man. That's awesome. And then Adam Y with a 1K win. Finally took one down first in the PGA short game. Turned my $1 into 1,000. Thanks to the awesome folks at Content and Stokastic. Shout out to Eric Lindquist and Jazz Raz DFS. And James Sanderson on a heater in NHL. Love the show with Slim, Cliffy, and Josh. It is a great show. You should check that out. That is me vouching for them. Now give me my free month. All right. Well, you could ask nicer. But hey, $600 in the hip check. Congratulations, man. Big stuff there as well. And Jay up next. Use the Stokastic tools to take third in the $5 single entry, second in the $3 3 max. Thanks for the great tools and content. We got $1,500 there between the single back and the huddle. Congrats, Jay. And Scott Terman top plays. Thanks to Eric Lindquist, top plays. I got third out of almost 8,000 people. With the free month and 150, I can move up in entry fees. That is what we want to see, man. Getting the free month, moving up higher, getting the win. Lovely stuff. And then Kanan. I don't know why my avatar pick hasn't changed, but how about that free month? Appreciate you fellas by a ton. By far my most watched program. Quarter Jukebox. I've said it once, I'll say it again. It doesn't matter what your entry fee is. If you want to get up here, if you want to get the free month, inducted into the Hall of Fame, you can get in a quarter jukebox. The nickel doesn't matter. Just has to be top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. And how about Powers 99? I won second in the 12,500 and one tournament last night using Stokastic's premium tools. Love to see it. Thanks for all your content, gentlemen. $500 in the 20 entry max and one. And Jay, Justin, and Lou, 2 big hits this week because of everyone at Stokastic and you, Justin, and Lou, I guess. $150 there in that one, second place, followed up by Andrew. Another big ROI night, courtesy of the projections over at Stokastic. Nice. Quarter jukebox. Again, look, $300. Look at the ROI on that. It's lovely. Mark Cato edged out multiple Luka lineups in hot pursuit. Shout out to Stokastic for the best content, hands down. First place, $100 there, and a couple left before we say goodbye for the week. Bill, thanking Stokastic, and our boy Matt Savoca. Thanks, Matt. First big win. Your tepid endorsement of Russell Wilson convinced me to play him. Hoping this qualifies for the free month. Finding this site has improved my ROI considerably. Keep up the great work. And a $1,000 win going to Bill there. We rounded out with CZAP 2 times in 1 week. Thanks, guys, for everything. Let's go. I'll definitely take a free month or 2. Only 1, but you still get it with the $400 and the $200 in the piggy bank, like I said, and the piggy bank again.
Not going to be like that next week. I guarantee it, though.
No way. No. Again, more of an indictment on the Vikings than anything else. I love Brian Dable, though. Like, as much as I love the Eagles, I love Brian Dable.
He's great.
He's a good coach. And he's an honest one, too. He's just like, he comes in, he's like, we got our asses kicked, basically. Like, I mean, what else are you going to say? But you know what I mean? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive, presented by No House Advantage, running it back for another day in divisional weekend. 2 down, 2 to go. Bengals, Bills, Cowboys, Niners. Should have some good games on our hands today. And yes, certainly, we talked about a lot of this stuff yesterday. We'll discuss some similar stuff, of course, but a different context. Now you only got 2 games. The field, the pool, the player pool thins out considerably. So very happy to have all 1,400 plus of you guys watching with us. And I must say, shout out to Matt Savoca and Geoff, because as that show concluded, they had around 270 thumbs up on the No House Advantage first look show heading into the deeper dive. So applaud those fellas. Appreciate it. We're at 308 now. I'm Dave Loughran at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Joined as always by Ben Rasa, who was very adamant last night that Boston Scott would slay the Giant.
Yeah,
and that he did for 9 whole fantasy points.
Yeah, look, everyone except Miles Sanders found that, literally everyone. So credit, you must be feeling good. Let's start there. You must be feeling good, because that wasn't even a sweat.
Nah, I felt pretty good about it. Yeah, felt pretty good. You know, obviously, there's next week, right? Like home field advantage, NFC Championship of the League. That game, no matter who it is going to be crazy. If it's Dallas, that's nuts. And then if it's San Francisco, just a great football team. But we made quick work of the Giants. I told you, Ben, and it's more of an indictment on the Vikings than it is the Giants. So
most things in life, NFL related or not, are just an indictment on the Vikings. We could spend, because we only got 2 games, we could spend half the show indicting the Vikings. But no, listen, you got everything you could ask for. You're going to get a home game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. It doesn't get better than that.
And as always, Alex Baker at Awesemo DFS chugging down that sludge again. Can you hold that up to the? Can I see that again, please?
No, it's gone.
I just saw it slowly creeping down the bottom of that. How's it taste?
It's good, man. It's good fuel for today because we need some good lineups here. It's tough to get unique on a 2-game slate. So yeah, I think to keep the show interesting, we'll have to backtrack on all of our takes from yesterday on these games. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man. And then Mahomes. How about the Mahomes thing, Alex? You got, and we're going to get into these games, of course. Very happy to have you guys with us. We're going to 500 likes will be crushed within the next 20 minutes or so. So appreciate you guys in advance. Atone for your sins and cleanse yourself of that filth that's holding you down. But in all seriousness, it helps us a lot. So hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It helps us, YouTube algorithm, all that stuff. It's true. But Alex, high ankle sprain for Patrick Mahomes. Chad Henne comes in, has the longest drive in Chiefs postseason history. And then Mahomes comes in and just starts zipping balls off of the left foot. What a crazy performance that was. He wasn't himself, but they still get the W.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that Patrick Mahomes came back because I had my tweet all set, like Chad Henne, Nick Foles, the same number of letters in the first and last name. Like, could that be a coincidence? But then Mahomes all of a sudden's like coming back out of the locker room at halftime. So didn't get to fire that one off. But yeah, I think that was pretty impressive to see that he gritted it out. Even like ran the ball a couple times. That was exciting.
Ben, yeah, I thought I was hoping Jacksonville missed that field goal because it covered
For the cover.
Yeah, but it was another one of those crazy games. And shout out to Jacksonville. They're not a terrible football team.
No, I mean they're a little ways away, but they made progress. They battled. They got the break that potentially that they needed. Like realistically, it felt like for them to win that game, they needed something crazy to happen, and Mahomes gets hurt. But Chiefs are just too good, and Travis Kelce is, it's amazing when I look at his line. You almost feel like you if you didn't play him, you were fortunate in the sense that it seemed like he was going to legitimately get 55 or 60 at one point. He had 10 catches in the first half, and he slowed after that. But the Chiefs are just so, Tony and MVS scored, and he was like on the Boston Scott plan, just doing nothing yet scored somehow.
I know that was the left foot. Mahomes high ankle sprain tosses it. I mean, he improvises so beautifully. But hey, Jacksonville, they've come back. They should come back strong. They got Calvin Ridley next year too. That's going to be interesting. Let's not forget they got Calvin Ridley on that team. Could be fun. And the New York Giants, we'll see. We'll see what they can do at the receiving position. But we got 2 games to talk about, 4 teams. If you guys look at the sidebar, we're going to do things the way we always do. It just looked weird if I put them in the sidebar with 2 games and it's like huge chunks. So nothing's different here. We'll go team by team. We'll talk stacks, of course, how we're approaching these games as a whole and kind of individually get a little granular with these players. But let's go and kick this one off out of the gate. Ben, I'll start with you here. Bengals 5.5 point dogs. Before we get into a DFS thing here, do you think that the Bengals come in, because this was opened at 3, moved to 5.5. I think you gave your opinion on this yesterday, but I've asked so many different people. Was it you that said that Buffalo comes in and takes care of business?
Yeah, I definitely am on the Buffalo side.
Okay,
Now
I thought so.
I missed the good numbers, but we're going to get into all of it, but I think Buffalo's in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Bengals still can put up some points, though. We'll start it with them. I actually want to start in the backfield. We're going to talk about Higgins and Chase, and boy, we'll get to Hayden Hurst and all this. But now, yesterday it was different, right? You had you had Saquon Barkley on the slate. You had Travis Etienne, who was the same price as Joe Mixon, essentially, right? You had Jerick McKinnon, what a disaster that was. It didn't even get targeted in the passing game. You had Isaiah Pacheco, just going down the list, right? Miles Sanders, a bunch of different running backs. Now you're definitely limited to a Dallas timeshare. Okay. Not to say that you can't look to guys like Pollard and even Elliott. We'll get to that. And then a couple of other spots, namely Christian McCaffrey. But with Joe Mixon now, is this one of these spots where he's kind of in a no man's land along with Tony Pollard? Like, do you like Mixon a lot more than you would have yesterday where we had 4 games to choose from?
I mean, I think you kind of have to take the ownership is going to drastically change when you cut the slate in half. I think that's the number one thing that stands out. I was kind of indifferent to Mixon yesterday. You know, I certainly had him and have him on some of those teams, but we talked about it a little. Volume versus efficiency. I think the volume is going to be there in any game script. If they fall behind, this is a guy that can have 5+ targets. If they're winning, this is a guy that can flirt with 20 carries. But the offensive line is so bad, these carries aren't that valuable. So it's a guy that if you're not getting all the way up to McCaffrey, there's not that many other options. You already mentioned you've got double timeshares in the other backfield. So I think by default, you have to give Mixon strong consideration. And when I look at our tools, the field is giving him strong consideration. He's pretty popular today.
And I think they should be.
Yeah.
I think they should be in a spot like this, Alex. I know none of us were particularly high on Mixon yesterday. What are your thoughts today? 2-game slate. Cincinnati, 21.5 point total, 5.5 point dogs. But I mean, it doesn't really mean much when you're only dealing with 2 games here.
Yeah, I mean, running back's really tough today because you got Christian McCaffrey, who's like obviously the top option. And then after that, there's a lot of question marks where like Mixon, the question mark is just the fact that Cincinnati is a pass first team. That's a big underdog here. So the most likely outcome is you're not going to see many rushing attempts for Mixon. And that's pretty scary because, his price tag is significant. But I mean, he's going to be the second highest projected of any of the running backs. So it's partly because Buffalo and Dallas have such timeshares at the position. So running back's tough to get right today. Mixon, I'm probably going to lean towards being under the field because I do feel like it's unlikely that Cincinnati runs the ball a lot. But, it's hard to fade him because there's not very many options.
But it does feel, you're right. It feels like a spot where he has to get it done on the ground, or he's got to fall into the end zone a couple times as well. Or I'm sorry, get it done through the air.
Yeah, and I mean, well, the problem is Samaje Perine has been playing quite a bit. Because when Mixon was out a few games, Perine really stepped up. But I think that continued last week in the first round. So Perine's definitely the guy who's going to be out there in those third downs, like hurry up offense kind of situations, kind of like what we saw with Hasty yesterday. So that definitely is going to be a thorn in Mixon's side from a fantasy standpoint. But it's not as significant as the other timeshares.
Do you have interest in Perine in large field tournaments?
No, probably not. It's much more effective to go cheap at wide receiver or tight end, where you get guys that are going to be on the field a lot more than Perine, and there's always the possibility of an injury to Mixon. It's a little bit of a parlay even then, so probably won't play much Perine.
Do you have any clear differentiation, Ben, between looking at a 2-game slate between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Not, hey, I think one's better than the other, obviously, right? Like, but in the sense of how far apart in salary they are for today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that kind of stands out, that T. Higgins, there was a time where, I'm not gonna say it was a direct pivot, but it was kind of more of like the Devonta Smith, AJ Brown from last night, where you're a couple extra bucks, you go get AJ Brown. This is significantly different. And I mean, Chase, double-digit targets seems like a lock. He's going to get attempts. He's going to get volume. And if they're trailing, both of them could see major volume, because we just talked about how Mixon can't really run the ball, and maybe they're phased out of that. So I think it's somewhat just a price point play at that point. I don't have a strong take on who among them stands out more. I think it's pretty clear that Jamar Chase will be more popular just because of the way you can build today. It's pretty easy to get him in if you want him.
Take a couple super chats real quick. Steven Leibowitz, our guy, member for 21 months, using the free super chat. He's a member here. You can be too. Hit that join down below. Get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis. You see them, the sweet badges scattered throughout chat here, and some other stuff that we do along the way. Thanks for a great season, guys. Let's smash today. Yeah, man. Thanks for being with us all season. And then Sam Pierce, you think Higgins will be at peak form after what happened last time? And do you change anything on your rosters with snow, rain? Peak what? Because he got tackled by somebody? Like, sure, maybe. Like, I don't know. That's never happened to me, Ben, where, you know, somebody tackles you and goes into cardiac arrest. But I'm not going to try and quantify, like, it's not like he did anything wrong. He got tackled. It's football.
Yeah, I mean, even regardless, it's an unknown that I don't think, like, he could, there could be something negative or positive. I have no idea. I think the second part of the question is probably more.
Well, hold on. Just let me say real quick. I think if there was going to be anything, it wouldn't just be because he's facing the Bills again. It would be like going out there the next week, and he's played 2 weeks since that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's been on the field. Yeah, go ahead. The next part's actually, I think, a more important question, and I want Alex's answer on this as well.
For me, I'm not really changing much, mostly because we only have 2 games. Like, even if I do think there could be some impact, I'm not changing much. The total, as far as I see, and again, all our tools over on Odd Chopper monitor this stuff. It's not like a drastic, it's not crumbling by any stretch. So all systems go for me in this game.
Any thoughts on the weather and the conditions here, Alex? It doesn't seem like it's something we should be terribly concerned about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that it looks like it's going to be snowing like lately during a lot of the games. So usually in snow, you might see more rushing attempts. But it does stand out that the odds haven't moved significantly. So I'm going to be looking for evidence that maybe there's some movement in the lines before making some big adjustments.
I don't think the total's moved at all, has it? Like, since the forecast?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think in some spots it actually came up a half a point. So yeah, that's a good point. If you're looking at anything to distinguish whether or not you should be concerned, looking at the total would certainly illustrate what you're trying to get at. And 48.5 points, it's still up there. I mean, that's a healthy total for sure. I want to know though, if you're talking about stacking this Cincinnati team today, Alex, and I know 2 teams have 21.5 point totals, Dallas and Cincinnati, both 21.5 point totals. Buffalo's at 27 and San Francisco's, I think, at 25. Can we make strong lineups just full? I know we can, right? Like, just going Burrow, Higgins, Chase. Is that the one that you're looking to get to the most in Bengals stacks, or do you think you could play this a little differently? And also, for both of you guys, on a 2-game slate, how willing or how much do you want to get like a Joe Mixon into a Joe Burrow stack? Is that something you're willing to get to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Burrow, I think he might be more popular than people expect, because when it comes to the like defense first position, it looks like Buffalo is pretty weak versus wide receiver. Like, we know this doesn't really mean a ton, but I do think people are going to want to play like Chase, Higgins especially. So I think that's not saying they're not good plays. We're going to see a lot of passing attempts because Cincinnati's an underdog here. Yeah, I do kind of like throwing in Mixon, where you don't want to like play for a situation where like you're necessarily your team's behind the whole game or something. So like, another way this game could play out is Cincinnati has success the whole game and closes it with the running back. So that's definitely something I'm thinking about, and he does catch a few balls. So I think Mixon fits in his stack pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, we have seen some games where Mixon's been heavily targeted, right? Like, he has 1, 2, 3, 4 games with 7+ targets, a handful of 9 target games this season. Just looking through it, like, the target share isn't that bad. The raw volume of targets isn't that bad for Joe Mixon, or at least it hasn't been, especially you've seen in games where they've needed to throw the football. I do still expect him to be involved. It's just a matter of like, does he do enough through the air to make you confident in stacking him with Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the ways that you can kind of change up some of your Bengals stacks, and he's going to be out there. I think there's no doubt about it. And if they fall way behind, I really don't think he is phased out in any way. I mean, P. Ryan, he can catch the ball, no doubt about it, but it's not like, we're taking Mixon off the field all the time. So I expect Mixon to still have ample opportunities. And for that reason, I think you can put him into your Burrow stacks if you're looking to be a little different.
Okay. So what do you mean? And for what it's worth, last week against Baltimore,
P. Ryan did basically nothing in that game.
Yeah. Looking at the snap counts, that's wild. P. Ryan, 53%, Mixon 45%. Interesting. But still, P. Ryan hardly touched the ball at all. I mean. Do you have any interest in the secondary options here? Of course, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase stand out atop the rest. You have Jamar Chase pulling right now 45% projected ownership in our ownership projections over at Stokastic.com. T. Higgins at 32%. Of course, 2-game slate. What about your Tyler Boyds and your Hayden Hursts here? Because despite what you may think, it is still a concentrated offense, just in the sense that, like, once you get past those guys, there's no one that really sees targets.
Yeah, and for that reason, I do have some interest. Boyd in particular, you want to talk about snap counts. He's on the field just as much as Chase and Higgins. He's living on the field. So he's going to have a lot of opportunities. I know the target share isn't great just because of the offense that he's in, but if you're out there that much, there are definitely scenarios where he's busy today. And then Hayden Hurst, if you're playing Burrow, I never mind. In fact, I look to pair up my tight end a lot with my quarterback just because you're trying to get those touchdowns. 6 targets last week for Hayden Hurst, something like that. I would sign for that potentially on a pretty weak tight end slate.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, Hayden Hurst, like tight end today, I think there's some solid options. Hayden Hurst is definitely one of them. But like it's you got Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz, and Kittle as well. Like it's really hard to pick between these guys, to be honest. And I'll probably just stack it with my QB. But Hurst, he's out there just as much as the other guys. Certainly a reasonable option.
Do you have any willingness to play 2 tight ends on this slate?
I think you got to consider it because there's not a ton of value today. Like just pretty much every short slate has been like this. And one of the best ways to get value is by getting 2 tight end because they do tend to be cheaper. So really have nothing against it. It's not like I'm going to go out of my way to do it, but if I have to choose between like Cole Beasley and Hayden Hurst for my final play, I'm definitely picking Hayden Hurst.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. And I mean, too, Ben, like Dawson Knox, and we can flip over to the Buffalo side here, do this seamlessly. Dawson Knox, some of these guys do have nice touchdown equity, even though they're not, super big volume guys as far as their target share is concerned. I mean, we saw last week Dalton Schultz 2 touchdown game, right? We know that Dawson Knox, while it hasn't exactly been the case this season, is still somebody that can get some looks inside the 20, some end zone looks. So there are at least some cheaper tight ends, not dirt cheap, but like 3,800 on Dawson Knox. That if you are flexing them in over some of these other real tertiary receivers that are like the number 5 passing option in their own team that don't really have red zone looks, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world at all.
No, and these are good. All the totals are relatively healthy today. That's the key. Like you talk about, they have to score, on limited targets potentially. It's hard to go to a tight end on a team where, their team totals 14, 15, something like that. It's a big ask. But when you're talking about a guy like Dawson Knox, he's part of a Bills team that's favored today at home. The weather holds up. It's hard to think that they won't have several opportunities to find the end zone. And just look at the game log. Clearly, he's a threat to score. He's done it in 5 straight games. So, I have no problem with him as an attachment to Josh Allen or as part of a 2 tight end build.
And if you guys are looking to see and reference and use, take advantage of the tools that we're talking about today, first 5 days of NFL content are entirely free. Understandably, it's a Sunday, right? So you're getting everything today. You're getting, if it would have been wiser to do it on Thursday or Wednesday, no doubt about that. I'm sure that's not lost on you, but still, if you're new to the channel and you're just seeing this, first 5 days of NFL tools entirely free. Ownership, top stack tool, the boom bust tool, give you the optimal score, the leverage score on everything. The brand new lineup generator, which also has incredible new tools for showdown slates as well. So yeah, links in the description. Link is in chat on top of that. So check it out. All of our tools, everything for NFL for today. And of course, if you did do it today, you're still getting, some preliminary tools. You're still getting all the updated tools for next week once we update them, early next week as well. So you'll be able to look at all of that. You just won't have it for Sunday. But if you haven't gotten in yet and you're saying, all right, I'd like to see what we've got going on here, 5 free days, link in the description. Also, Ben, free week of Bet Pro over NBA Bet Pro has just been absolutely smashing. So I think we can throw that link in there as well if anyone's into that betting thing.
No doubt about it. It's been awesome over there. A lot of people checking it out. And I say this every time for me. The thing I love about it, focused on NFL. I'm focused on college basketball. I would love to bet the NBA. I simply don't have time. I just go to the tool, I sort, and I bet the top ones. That's been working pretty nicely. I'm going to continue to do that. So if you like NBA, go check out that tool for free.
Yeah. First week, totally free. It's crushing too. I mean, the likelihood, I won't say likelihood because there's always variance in these sports, but that you get it for free, use it for the first week, and then you're covering yourself to stick with it. So check it out. But anyway, what do we want to do with the backfield here, Alex? The Buffalo Bills backfield. You mentioned we got the Bills timeshare and you got the Dallas timeshare. So there's not exactly an embarrassment of riches here at the running back position.
Yeah, this one's tough because James Cook and Devin Singletary have been getting about the same amount of touches, and then there's Nyheim Hines, who came in last game and played a little bit more in the passing game than he had been recently. So it's pretty murky here. I think taking a shot on one running back that's not as likely to succeed, like Cook, Singletary, or in the other situation, you got Pollard and Elliott. Like those are no, I don't feel great about any of those guys, but we got to have 2 running backs at least. So I'm just kind of mixing them in here.
Okay. What about you, Ben, in the backfield for Buffalo?
Yeah. So I think when you're talking about a 2-game slate, things change. That was a situation I really didn't want a ton to do with yesterday. There were a lot of options. I would have rather rolled the dice on Pacheco, just guys that we don't need to talk about now. Now I'm more willing to say I have no idea whether it's going to be Singletary or Cook or neither, but there are ways where one of them gets going and they, instead of being 50-50, it goes to 75-25 in the game. And just to capture some of that, I'm willing to kind of gamble on that. I think you can attach to Josh Allen. They both shown they can catch the ball. So although it's a very, very tough situation, I think you have to consider it on a slate like this, where we simply just don't have a huge opportunity cost at running back because there's just not many good options.
Totally agree with you. Plus, highest implied total of any team on the slate. They're sitting at 27. They're 5.5-point favorites. Of course, the Josh Allen rushing upside can be, can be tough. I mean, you saw it yesterday with Hurts, though. Hurts ran one in, Gainwell ran one in, Boston Scott ran one in, Miles Sanders, nope. Somehow he's the one that doesn't get there. But still, 3 rushing touchdowns from 3 different players on an offense similar to the Buffalo Bills, in the sense that you have a mobile quarterback and multiple guys in the backfield. And I think at this point, yeah, you're looking at a team that is, almost a touchdown favorite with a 27-point implied total, even if it is a split workload, Ben. And I think at this point, we kind of just have to assume that that's going to be the case. Maybe one does heat up and see more opportunities in the passing game. Do you have, do you have a preference? I think my preference is still Singletary, but it would be by razor thin margins.
It's always Singletary for me. Why that is just because I thought, and I still think, that he should be more of a workhorse back. Clearly, they don't think that. It's very difficult. I would be lying if I said there's a lot that separates them.
Alex, you have any thoughts on this? Maybe our tools can guide us in the right direction here, or are we just flying blind here?
Well, Yeah, as far as projection, we have them about equal. So I guess the ownership is kind of the tiebreaker there. I don't have the tool in front of me. I'm trying to pull it up, but yeah, I think Cook is 4,800 on DK. How much is Singletary? Like
I think
little bit
52, right?
5,200. Yeah, head on. I think you're just kind of guessing, which is something you need to do on a 2-game slate.
Yeah, for sure. And like looking at the optimal score in our boom bust tool, we have James Cook optimal 24 point, or no, I'm sorry. James Cook optimal 24% of the time. Yeah. Devin Singletary optimal 21% of the time. Neither of them have great leverage, but it does look like in our tools, James Cook is a marginally better play. But like you said, you just have to take some shots here. Would you guys play both of them together in lineups? There's your question, Alex. That's the tough one. We're asking the tough questions today.
Probably not, because like going double punt running back, like it just is hard to imagine being able to spend that money that you're leaving on the table there. So but in general, I don't think it's a crazy idea, because like if Buffalo just gets up to a big lead, you could see something like with Philadelphia last night where like all the running backs seem to be going off. So I don't hate it.
What about you, Ben? Same question. Then we can talk about some pass catchers here.
No, I'm not looking to really do that. If you're trying to win a $500,000 and you're playing 100+ teams, maybe on one or two, but it's so far away from my primary builds. If that happens, more power to the people that play it up.
All right. Actually, we're going to get into Gabe Davis. We're going to talk receivers here. Actually, let's do this. We had a super chat as well. First of all, we had another one from Hippopotamus. Man, this guy, he's committed, and I appreciate it. Even changed the avatar. He's got an emoji or whatever those things are called for YouTube.
Yeah, what are those things?
I don't know. There's a name. I don't think they're the stickers. I think there's someone will tell us. Someone that knows more about them than we do will tell us what they are. He didn't even say anything. Just a picture of a hippo.
That says it all. There's nothing to say.
No, there's nothing to say at all. Oh, he said, "I'm watching you, Lofty." Yeah. Come on, man. Hippo got nothing on me. Appreciate you though, dude. And then Sam Pierce with a super chat. Any strong leans between Beasley and Shakir? Well, with McKenzie back, Alex, I think that makes it even more difficult. Like Shakir looked good, but you're still talking about McKenzie being back in the mix where he wasn't last week in that wild card win over Miami.
Yeah, I mean, McKenzie's definitely number one between those guys, but Cole Beasley, I'd say, is number two over Shakir for me, because Cole Beasley saw more routes last week. And Cole Beasley, I don't think he's very good at special teams. So, like, I think the reason why he's active is to be out there on offense. So I do feel like Cole Beasley is ahead of Shakir for me.
All right, Ben, how about you talking receivers here? Gabe Davis. We talked about this yesterday, just looking at the ownership on Gabe Davis was pretty remarkable on that slate. He's 37% here is where we've got him projected. We have Stephon Diggs at 42%. If you're looking over at our boom bust tool, you have Gabe Davis coming in at what? So 36% optimal, 36% ownership right now. Just to give you guys a reference point here, you have Diggs 46% optimal, 42% ownership. So some positive leverage actually with Stephon Diggs today. Again, highest total of any team on this slate. He has the highest leverage score of any wide receiver on this slate as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation we talked about yesterday. And his ownership seems more reasonable today on the 2-game slate. Like, it really didn't get that big of a boost in terms of Gabe Davis. His price still very appealing. He could be the flat min and he would still have a ton of risk just by the way he plays. Like, his floor is going to be susceptible to a lot of games that really don't help you no matter what. But we have to acknowledge how good of a situation it is. It's a healthy total, their favorite. And he's going against the Cincinnati secondary that's just not good. So to me, there's a lot of reasons why he stands out, and you're not going to be alone if you play him. But I'm very comfortable with Gabe Davis today.
Okay. Do you have a preference as far as the non-Diggs pass catchers in Buffalo, including Dawson Knox, of course? maybe you're not playing a ton of lineups. Maybe you already have, let's say, Stefon Diggs in there. Is Gabe Davis your clear go-to guy after that? Or do you see any other spots that stand out?
I think it's kind of that by default. What I would say is that if I was in a situation where I was choosing between Dawson Knox in the flex or Shakir, McKenzie, or Beasley, I would choose Dawson Knox. I think that he is ahead of those type of guys, and I think Gabe Davis is ahead of him. And then, of course, you have Diggs.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I mean, outside of that, though, Alex, what do we have here with Buffalo? Of course, you have a rushing quarterback who has a pretty high rushing prop in Josh Allen this week. Or for today. And then you have an alpha in Diggs. You have a guy in Davis who has been targeted downfield a ton recently and actually has, a 23% target share over the last month. Dawson Knox, we know what he can do. And then you're getting into the McKenzies or the Shakirs and those types once you get past the big three, we'll call them.
Yeah. I mean, Diggs, like, it's hard to say anything negative about him. He's been pretty exceptional this year. So I'm going to be playing him a lot. Gabe Davis, I'm pretty sure I'm going to fade or at least be a lot under the field. Like, I think people are going to look back at this divisional game he had last year where he got 201 yards and 4 touchdowns and be like, Gabe Davis in the playoffs is the bomb or whatever. So I do feel like he's going to be very popular today, and him coming off some big performances is only going to amplify that. So he's probably the guy that I feel comfortable like being light on, because I do feel like he's a boom bust play, like you guys are saying, and I'll just bet on him busting. And then Dawson Knox, definitely solid. And after that, it gets pretty murky with McKenzie, Beasley, and Shakir all being kind of dart throwers.
All right, so Alex, I want to ask you and Ben this to wrap this game up, and we'll do the same thing at the end of Cowboys and the Niners. Obviously, there's more nuance that goes into this than the question I'm about to ask, because you only have 2 games, and you're likely not only going to be playing players from one game. Well, you can't. You got to have one from another. But if there are any unique ways to stack this game, how do you approach this? Like, let's say Josh Allen is your quarterback or Joe Burrow is your quarterback. Anything you think everybody watching, by the way, thanks for getting us well north of 500 likes, guys. Anything you think from a strategic standpoint that we should know about, whether it's like how many guys you're willing to play against your defense on a 2-game slate in a stack, anything you've got?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, defense is going to be a big part of how you get different here, because playing someone like Josh Allen against the Bengals defense or Joe Burrow against the Bills defense, like, those can work out pretty easy because they throw a lot of interceptions. So on a 2-game slate, that's definitely a way I'm going to consider getting different. But the preferred option I like is just stacking up my quarterback with the defense on their team. So like Allen plus the Bills defense. I feel like people don't like to do that. And this is a 2-game slate, so you don't need like your quarter, or you don't need every player to go completely ham to win the tournament. So I'm just gonna hope that if Allen has a big day, then maybe the Bengals have to force some bad throws at the end of the game or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, good points. And Ben, one thing I don't hate, we'll get your take here too, is, and it's not that it's not going to be used, but even having like the Josh Allen with one pass catcher, like receiver or tight end, and then just play him with one of Singletary and Cook as well, because you could certainly see a game where, and we've seen this many times before, where Josh Allen does enough with his arm to get one guy there, right? And then does enough with his legs, and then they continue to run the football as well. Or one of the running backs has a receiving touchdown. Like, there's definitely a lot of ways to do this.
Oh, no doubt. And yeah, getting your running back into the stack is one way to be different. You guys talked about the defense. And then I'll just bring up one more, is the full onslaught. It's low probability, but there are ways where a team hangs 50 points, 45 points, something crazy. And it's kind of like a college football, if any of you guys play college DFS, where you can put uncorrelated plays in the offense because there's 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. And it's just like, you just have 5 Bills and the defense, like full onslaught. And is it low? It's low probability, but if they go crazy, and the other game completely implodes, the raw points can get you there. And that's something we don't see on normal slates.
And I know we got to get to this next game. I don't imagine it's going to take as long as this one, but to that same question, to your same point, Ben, how do you feel about the full game stack onslaught where it's like every player in your lineup except one from this game?
Yeah, I think you definitely can do that, of course, with 2 games. I will say more people seem to, I think, generally stack up the game in these onslaughts than one team. And I think that the one team's onslaught is maybe a little less utilized than it could be, where it's like, okay, I'm not even going to have a run back because I think it could be, I'm shooting for 42-10, just a true outlier performance. And I don't even want the run back.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, let's talk about Cowboys and Niners. Then we got you guys covered every time. We have even had you covered for No House Advantage. We got Live Before Lock coming up next. Is that no. Engelman and Eric Lindquist are on NBA Live Before Lock tonight at 7 Eastern. Don't miss that. And then who do we have coming up next? Oh, got your boy Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajewski. That's a nice crew. They'll take you all the way up to kickoff. And I mentioned No House Advantage. Jordan just hit me up. It's 32% full right now. Link is in the description. Link is in chat. 32%. We have 1 hour and 19 minutes until kickoff. And go find contests that are 32% filled on DraftKings and FanDuel right now that aren't that aren't like supplementary contests that they added because the other 3 before that already filled. And now they're going to fill 32% filled right now. You're getting $100 first match deposit bonus when you use the link in the description or in chat. You're getting all of the tools that this man, Alex Baker, right here built for No House Advantage for free over at our site, Stokastic.com, right? No House Advantage optimal lineup tool, No House Advantage player prop projections. And if you're wondering, hey, is there a learning curve? Like, is this site something like they're trying to revolutionize it and the game and it stinks? No, they're not. They just put a cool twist on it where there isn't a learning curve. Like everything you're taking in here, absorbing here, all the research you did throughout the week, all the leans and the gut feels that you guys have, or you could just use the tools that we have to give you actual numbers. All of that entirely applicable because you're just taking props over or under. As Ben always points out, they're static. They don't move throughout the week. Legitimate edges to find there, and you're building lineups and playing against the field. $15,000 up top today too, which is real nice when you're getting that big overlay that you're seeing in these contests. Like 32% filled right now. You're just taking props, building lineups with that. The ones you like the most go at the top. They get the most points. The ones you're least confident in go at the bottom. They get the fewest points. Play against the field, which is a lot less than is allowed in there because there's going to be overlay, and it's by design because they want you guys to check this out. And you can also play the format where you play against the house. Win 21x your entry, which is another format that people have been loving. But check it out. Get the $100 first match deposit bonus. Use the free tools at Stokastic that are there at your disposal and win some money. Take advantage of massive overlay while it's still here because you're not finding that on these other sites. Links in the description and in chat. All right, Ben, talk to me about the Cowboys. I think we have to start in the backfield here, right? I mean, 21.5 point total or 3.5 point dogs. Number 1 ranked DVOA, defensive DVOA for San Fran. Number 2 for Dallas. But backfield, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. What an interesting spot this is on a 2-game slate. A whole lot different than yesterday. Way more nuance.
Oh yeah, this could be like most things we talk about. This could be the spot though. This is a real difficult one to break down, but it's not one that I think you should ignore. You're going to have opportunities here, So I think there's 2 different paths. One, Zeke gets a ton of red zone work. If for some reason there's pass interference in the end zone, if some reason they can run the ball up the middle, which I would say seems doubtful, he could fall in the end zone and get you there. Tony Pollard to me is the more interesting because he's extremely explosive, catch the ball, pretty healthy snap rate. It seems like when the chips are down, they're pretty comfortable with him out there. I like rolling the dice with him. He is someone I had on some of my teams for the 4 game, just because I thought it'd be a little sneaky. And now even for the 2 game, I'm comfortable with him even against San Francisco's defense today.
Okay. Alex, you feel the same way about these about this timeshare for Dallas? And of course, there is a decent price gap between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I mean, Pollard, I think he's been the better player over the course of the year. The only thing that sucks is Ezekiel Elliott getting the goal line touches in the short yardage situations, which are how most running back touchdowns are usually scored. So I guess I'd lean a little bit towards Ezekiel Elliott, given the prices of both. But this is a really tough matchup for Dallas, and yeah, it's hard to get excited about either guy.
Oh, okay. We're taking that approach today. All right. Now I gotta dig a little bit deeper here then, if that's the case. You mentioned it. We got to play 2 running backs, right? You have Mixon against Buffalo, of course, McCaffrey. Well, let's not even talk about McCaffrey here. Let's just talk about the other 3 teams on this slate. How would you prioritize these Dallas guys then compared to all of the other non-McCaffrey running backs?
Oh man, that's the tough thing. Is I'm kind of just throwing darts and mixing my exposure between all of them, because I don't really see a huge advantage at any spot other than McCaffrey. And Ezekiel Elliott, I'd say, is the best for his projection, because like a lot of his projection is those goal line carries. So those are tend to be worth more than regular fantasy points, because they are a higher chance of touchdown. So Ezekiel Elliott might be, it's tough because I'm looking at my lineups. I have like so even exposure to the different guys, but Ezekiel Elliott, I'd say he's my sleeper this week, because it seems like no one's on him.
So I guess, yeah, I guess the answer to the question then is you just have pretty even exposure across the board to most of these guys. It sounds like, Ben, you have a little bit more interest in Dallas running backs than Alex does. Not to say Alex isn't playing them, because you have to, but sounds like you have a little bit more interest here.
I think particularly with Pollard, I do.
Oh, okay.
He's someone that, but again, it is true. We have to take the reality of the situation. It's a 2-game slate. And if you're playing more than a handful of lineups, you have some type of exposure to basically anyone who's living on the field. So it's just like, I definitely don't mind getting these guys. I just look at Pollard, and it just seems that he has the potential, outside of touchdown equity, which of course is somewhat fluky, to have some explosive plays, even against this Niners defense. And if he gets going, can't get him involved with some swing passes, things like that, maybe rack up PPR volume, I feel good about it. And again, what are we talking about opportunity cost wise? No one seemed overly high on Mixon. We don't really love Singletary and Cook. There's just not that much there. So McCaffrey's in a class of his own, and then it's wide open.
It's wide open after that. And, it's funny too, Ben, because you look at the Cowboys and you go, yeah, and you said, like, we have to keep it in context here. We have to stay on track. There's only 2 games, but the passing game here, it's so funny because this team is so inconsistent, right? They're so unpredictable. You can have a game like they did in week 18 against Washington. Who knows? That might have just been a scenario where it's like, we know the Eagles aren't losing to the Giants, whatever. And they just come out there and they're completely flat. But Dak looked terrible, regardless of whatever the circumstances behind that were. And then he's surgical the next week against Tampa Bay, who, say what you want about their offense, it's dog shit. Their defense for most of the season has still stood up enough to not get slaughtered. But still, you have Stephon Diggs, you have Jamar Chase on this slate, right? Like, you have other middle tier, even semi-value receivers that should be pretty popular. How does CeeDee Lamb slot in amongst all of these other guys today? Because he's not cheap.
No, he's not cheap at all. And that's what you're really weighing now. Because it's 2-game slate, he's still going to garner some ownership. If you're playing Dak, of course, he's going to correlate the strongest. I'm just having some trouble getting him as kind of a one-off if I'm going to, Diggs and Chase and McCaffrey and these guys. I just don't really have the room. And I do think the way Dallas is constructed, they have some of the strongest value plays on the slate. There are guys in this offense that are actual pieces of the offense that are pretty cheap. So CeeDee Lamb's a great player, definitely have some exposure, but I would say for the most part, he won't define my slate one way or another.
Yeah, and he's actually pretty popular, Alex. I was kind of surprised to see that CeeDee Lamb is pulling, 35% projected ownership right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's because he's a good play, and Dallas, and as an underdog, is probably going to have to throw the ball a good amount of times. like their target share has been pretty consolidated. So he's gotten targeted 25% of the time. The next highest wide receiver is Michael Gallup at 17%. T.Y. Hilton's kind of a question mark because he's played a lot less, but has been getting a lot of targets. So I think he's pretty interesting today. But CeeDee Lamb, really have nothing negative to say today.
What about Dalton Schultz for you? It's kind of basically the same tier as that Dawson Knox play.
Yeah, I think Schultz, I think he's a great play. He's going to be high owned because he is coming off some really big performances. So I think he's going to be very popular, but he has the playing time and targets to make it worth it because he's been playing about 90% of the snaps and targeted more than 20% of those. So the number of targets is significant.
Was it you, Ben, yesterday talking about your affinity for Michael Gallup in this spot?
So yeah, I've been somewhat wishy-washy on a lot of these guys, saying I'm going to balance. Michael Gallup's maybe my most important player, not just for the 2 game, but for the 4 game. I really like the price, healthy targets, elite athlete. He can win against these corners. He's healthy. It's, we know what the floor. Listen, he's a sub 4K wide receiver against a good defense. There's no plug and plays on this slate, but I am really willing to roll the dice on him. Obviously, if he finds the end zone, he's getting there, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that he has 7-8 targets in this game. And if they're trailing beyond that, he should really be involved. So I like him quite a bit here.
Let me drill down on this a little more with one question, right? Say you're playing one lineup, okay? Single entry contest.
Yep.
You've got $3,800 remaining. Do you go Dawson Knox? Do you go Michael Gallup? Or does it depend on maybe who the quarterback is, what type of build you're going with as far as what the game stack looks like or whatever?
I mean, there's always like nuance to that, but it's hard for me to think it would be anyone other than Gallup. I really like he would be one of my first players into that lineup.
I just want to see how much you liked him. That gives you a pretty good idea of that. DNA or John with a free super chat using the 1 month. What's up, man? Millie tournament. How much are you guys stacking 5-mans?
I have some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some
about the onslaughts, right?
Yep.
Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I think 5-man sack, that's totally doable. The way I'm thinking about it is like, it's mostly like, you don't need every player to go off. You just need to get like 4 out of 5 probably and have a good shot to win.
And one from James, DK single entry running back to match with McCaffrey. So essentially, Ben, if you're in a single entry contest and we don't have any context outside of the fact that he's playing McCaffrey, who would be your preferred, in a vacuum running back to pair with McCaffrey today?
It would be Pollard, but again, there's a lot of feasibility issues, but if I could play any other running back, it would be Pollard.
You like Dallas today?
I think Dallas is going to win. I hope, like I said, I'm far from a Cowboys fan. I'm really interested to see if they can get pressure on Purdy and force him into he's not immune to making some mistakes. There's no doubt about it in my mind. So I think Dallas is going to cause some problems that San Francisco hasn't seen lately.
Okay. Alex, do you have a preferred pairing with McCaffrey in a single entry?
With any player?
Yeah, with any running back, any other running back.
Any running back. No, that's the spot where I'm just kind of mixing and matching. But if my lineup is contrarian, I'm leaning to, if the rest of my lineup's chalky, I'll lean towards Ezekiel Elliott. If it's more contrarian already, then maybe Pollard or Cook.
Okay. Talk about the Niners. Good pacing today, boys. We got 2,600 people with us. We're 9 likes away from 600. So appreciate you guys atoning for your sins, bowing down before the YouTube overlords and begging for mercy. That's what we got to do these days. But it works because you guys are a great community. Appreciate it. I went 2-1 on props yesterday, Ben. I had just the McKinnon one was ugly out of the gate. I knew just early on, I was like, that's not happening. But Dallas Goedert over receiving. That's the one. When that was why I said, hey, if you're going over on BetMGM, you're getting the 2 free months of Stochastic plus Platinum, right? And you're getting the bet insurance where all of your money comes back in bonus bets up to $1,000 if you lose the first bet. Of course, you got to use the link in the description and in chat to get all of this. I'll get to that in a second. I said Dallas Goedert over 48.5 receiving yards. We got that. Also, hit the plus money on Richie James over 4.5 receptions. Lined up nice, seven receptions, almost had that long touchdown that he dropped, but we get there. 2-1 or 2-1 on the day. If you signed up using the link for BetMGM, you're going, all right, sweet. I won my bet and I got 2 free months of Stokastic, not NFL, but every sport that we have and every single tool, including the Discord. I'd say that's a decent way to kick off the divisional round weekend.
Yeah, I heard some of that. I was distracted by whatever the hell is going on this. My face just changing.
Dude, it's absurd. Yeah, it's good.
It's not good.
See, I don't know why you would even allow people to use. That's why I won't do it. I just said nope.
I got duped. I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. But no, there's great opportunities. I'm gonna throw actually one prop out here before, if I can. And I've been doing this against this Cowboys defense. It's kind of a peripheral prop. I like Brock Purdy over 7.5 rushing yards. They get so much pressure. Sacks don't count against you. It's not like college football. And some of these times when he gets flushed, he's just going to run. And I have a feeling it's going to happen more than a couple of times today. He needs one long run. I think Purdy will get that. I'll go over 7.5 over at BetMGM today for my favorite prop.
Okay. I dig it. Give me Gabe Davis over 56.5 receiving yards. Cincinnati 31st against wide receiver twos. Davis seeing a lot of long opportunities. Give me that over at BetMGM. Check it out, friends. You're looking to up your stakes, but don't have the ability to pay for the content right now. $240 value. All you need, literally 2 minutes of your time and $10 when you sign up. Use the link in the description. Put $10 in, take that, put it on anything. Use Ben's bet on Purdy. Use what I have. If Alex has anything, use that. If you lose, you get it all back in bonus bets anyway, up to $1,000. If you win, you get your money. But regardless, you're getting 2 free months of Stochastic plus Platinum. Get your ass up there in the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Use these tools. That's the way to do it. You're essentially doing it for free. Get in our Discord as well. And of course, got to be 21 or older to gamble. And if you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Just do it. Or don't, but do it. All right. Alex, talk to me about San Francisco here. Christian McCaffrey. Do we really need to spend a whole lot of time on him today?
Well, I guess we don't if you guys are good with not talking about him. I mean, he's a good play.
Well, I didn't mean it like that. I just felt like we've said all show how good of a play he is on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get away from McCaffrey because it's just like the other guys. It's hard to have a ton of confidence, but all the factors are McCaffrey's favorite today. He's pretty much game script proof, so you're not as worried if Dallas has a surprisingly good output today. He's got a pretty decent running share. Elijah Mitchell mixes in a little bit, so one contrarian play you can do is pair the two, Mitchell and McCaffrey, and just hope there's a lot of rushing attempts in today's game. It's really the PPR points that are going to be a consistent source of points for McCaffrey. He's got about 20% of the team's target share. So pretty much whatever they do, he's probably going to be one of the higher scoring running backs.
Ben, Brandon asked a question that I think would be better than me asking you if you like Christian McCaffrey. His question was simply, Brandon, is it possible? What's that?
Oh, never mind. Yeah. I was just saying, Brandon, no, your friend, a different Brandon. Got it. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No. Is it possible to fade Christian McCaffrey today? And of course, yes, like you can play a lineup and DraftKings will allow you to submit without Christian McCaffrey. But is it possible for you? Like, will you be submitting lineups sans Christian McCaffrey?
It's tough. Unlike some of, like Gabe did, the chance of success is so high, but this is football. Like, all it takes is one twisted ankle early in the game and it happens. Like, so yes, I will have maybe a lineup or two without Christian McCaffrey, but even if he doesn't have a good game, given how bad the running back pool is, I still think he'll be in the optimal. And that's what makes it super dangerous. He doesn't even need to have a big game. If he's just effective remotely, I still think he's someone you want.
All right, break down the passing game for me here.
So you got Ayuk, Kittle, who's more touchdown dependent than I'd like, and just a team that generally doesn't have a super high pass rate with the Niners. So again, I'm okay with getting to these guys. I think the wild card is Debo because he can do a little bit of everything, super explosive. We saw the 75-yard touchdown last week. I don't have a ton of Purdy, so by extension, these are more kind of one-offs when I land in the range than core plays for me. I guess Jennings is as deep as you could go, but that's he's in kind of the McKenzie Shakir bucket for me.
Alex, same thing to you. Before we turn this over to Live Before Lock, of course, thanks all you guys for watching. Don't go anywhere. Hall of Fame coming up in between this, then Eric and Matt covering you all the way up until kickoff at 3 o'clock. Let's put a bow on it, Alex. Passing game from Kittle to Debo. Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, Debo's a little bit too cheap, so I think he's a good play. He can add a little bit on the ground too, so that's always good. And then George Kittle, that's probably a fade because I just feel like even though last game he had come back to earth, I still feel like he's going to have a lot of ownership from people chasing. Where Ayuk, I think is fine. So nothing too interesting there. So John Jennings,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe a sleeper because he was like 1% owned last week and had some red zone targets. So he's kind of someone that I might take a couple shots on.
Favorite play from San Francisco, not named Christian McCaffrey, Alex.
Oh man, that's tough. I guess. Ayuk, I guess. I don't know.
Ben?
It would be Debo, but there's a monumental drop off. I'm not overly high on anyone outside of McCaffrey on this team.
Okay. You like Dallas defense today?
I definitely have some, yeah.
Okay. Favorite defense? A silly question because you could do whatever you want, really. But is there anyone that you go, okay, it just works?
The Bills for me. I think there's a chance they really put pressure on Burrow.
Okay. I like it. Just got conviction today. I appreciate it, dude. 2 games.
I mean, I'm probably going to get bageled, but I know it's easy. Last thing I'll say, some slates, you kind of just, you know what you want to do. And this is one of those slates for me. I'm not saying it's going to work, but I have my stands built around it and we'll roll the dice.
Love it. Hey, follow Alex at Awesemo DFS, Ben at Jazzraz DFS, me at Lafayette_D. Say thank you to your boy Jordan Klein behind the glass here, putting in work each and every day. Except the other morning, heard about that. We'll see. You guys are the best. Good luck today. Have a good rest of the weekend. Eric, Matt, coming up next. Peace.
Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Andy, and I'm here to give you some of my favorite selections for No House Advantages versus the House contest, where we're going to try to pick 5 player props correct. And if we do, we're going to net up to 21 times our money. That's one of the types of contests that you get over at No House Advantage. No House Advantage is player props and fantasy rolled into one simple, easy-to-use platform. We got 2 different types of contests. We got the Pick'em contest, which we submitted picks for yesterday, where you pick player props associated with players, and the more you get right, the more you rise in the standings and get closer to the top prize. But today, we're going to be focusing on the Versus the House contest, where we pick any 5 player props. Doesn't even matter the sport, although today we're going to be focusing on NFL picks. You pick 5 right, you get 21 times your money. And for a limited time, if you go over to No House Advantage using the link in the description of this video, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you're going to put in 100, you're going to get 100, and you're going to throw it on some of these picks. What picks, you ask? Some of the favorite picks that I have looking at the Bills-Cincinnati game and also the Dallas 49ers game. We'll start with that early game. I'm going to go back to something I've been taking these last couple of weeks, and that's the over on both Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. It's obviously lower for Davis, which is nicer, higher for Diggs. But the reason I love this so much is because the target tree has kind of been condensed there in Buffalo. When you think about who Josh Allen is throwing that ball to, it's Diggs, Davis, and then a little bit to Knox, a couple targets to Cole Beasley and the running backs. But with the whole Jamison Crowder, Isaiah McKenzie being out of there, so much of the target share goes to both Diggs and Davis. They both went
for over 100 yards last week. I'm looking for something similar this week against the Bengals, where the Bills are going to try to push the ball down the field and score. You saw how they approached the Bengals a couple weeks back when they started that game on a Monday night. A lot of throws to Diggs and Davis. I'm looking for that to continue, so give me the over on both of those receivers. Then I'm going to go over to the Niners-Dallas game. I'm going to go back to a guy I loved last week, Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, who led the Cowboys in receiving last week, going up against the Niners, who is a team that you can move the ball on through the air, especially the way they play some zone defenses. I think he'll be able to find those little gaps in between the zones and be able to hit his over, which is still relatively low when you're considering that breakout performance.
Good morning, good afternoon for you normal people on the East Coast, Midwest. Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock. I'm Eric Lindquist. We are sponsored by No House Advantage here on our lovely little show. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for all of us here so we can keep doing this lovely free content for you guys. I keep saying lovely. I'm done. I'm done for the day. I'm not done talking football here. We got 54 minutes of it. And I'm just excited. I get to have half the law firm. We love you, Matt Savoca. He was on a little bit earlier. I got my dude, Matt Gajewski, Matt_Gajewski on the Twitter that I am currently still banned out of. That's a long conversation and something we'll talk about for a different day. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing good. I'm not banned on Twitter, surprisingly.
I said that TJ McConnell, I hope that he nuked a slate and they flagged it and said that I had broken terms of service.
Happened to me last Christmas, actually, where I used a phrase, bury him, as like, you know, not actual physical murder, but I was talking about like a player buried in the slate, and then I got banned from Twitter. So now I've learned my lesson to skirt around anything that might have an alternative meaning that the bots flag. But yeah, I've been there, man. It sucks.
Not fun. And I can't get a hold of anybody. It's been like 5 days. I've been living.
You got banned for 5 days? I got a 24-hour.
5 days. 5 days I haven't gotten a response back.
When do you get your account back?
I don't know. Maybe never. Apparently, they don't find anything I say to be valuable. So, not that I find that all that surprising, but what in the world, dude? What in the world?
Yeah, man, that sucks. Mine was only 24 hours. I hope you get that back soon. You can't even monitor like news and stuff.
Yeah, no, I started a my Duke dog account, the Duke of Toluca Lake. If anybody wants to go follow him on Twitter, he is currently following only news sources for daily fantasy sports.
I've been there, man. It sucks.
I subscribed to a couple Twitter lists. I'm ready to go. But it is what it is. We got 2 games in the NFL streets here before us. We got my buddy Jordan Klein. We had a nice romantic day up in Ojai, California together on Friday. We're still riding high. He's not even looking at me. Why aren't you looking at me? Give me eye contact. Give me attention. Look at me. Oh, gotcha. Oh, it's important. It's kind of important. All right. Also important, we talk a little football, shall we? What do you think about this 2-gamer? I played a lot on the 4-gamer. I'm going to be focused a lot on those lineups. I'm playing a little bit pretty light for the 2-gamer here because, you know, I'm on the show. Maybe I'll add a couple here as we're building through some things and talking about some things. What stands out to you? What are you looking forward to watching today?
I hope the games will be a little bit better. I'm confident in that, at least right now. We had the Mahomes injury early yesterday, and then a game that wasn't all that close. So I think just from competitive game product on the field, 2 tighter spreads, 2 good totals, really good offenses really across the board. So I think this will be competitive. For DFS, I think the main question of the day is, do you just eat the McCaffrey chalk, or do we try to get crazy and fade him? Because on a 2-game slate, you kind of get funneled into certain plays where McCaffrey clearly in a tier of his own. So if you fade him, you're going to be really contrarian. But my question to you is, and this is kind of what I've been battling all day, what does it take for him not to be in the optimal lineup? Because right now, I think I'm just going all in.
Really?
I mean, it's a 2-game slate. The alternatives are Joe Mixon and then some timeshares.
Yeah. So, for me, it's more of a pricing thing, and I understand PPR on DraftKings and FanDuel might be a little bit different just because I think you can find ways around McCaffrey there, but he's still got the most touchdown equity of anybody on the slate besides maybe Josh Allen, just from a rushing perspective. It feels pretty secure to me playing Christian McCaffrey, that's for sure. But I'm not like jamming him all in on a 2-gamer here. Running back, I think just because of the upside we do have at wide receiver and Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, somebody that I'm very high on. I think that there's still T. Higgins. There's lots of guys that you don't have that are completely cheap and they're above 5,500. Hard to play all of them together. I think you're looking at the chalk build being McCaffrey along with cheap tight end or 2 tight end type builds and I'm just trying to avoid a lot of that. Oh boy. The number of lineups I have with 2 running backs from the same team is kind of absurd. So I will say that, but I don't know about all in. You're just jamming them 100%.
Again, we talked before the show. I've been debating. I have a bunch of like candidate lineups built right now. It's trying to narrow down the ones I actually want to play, but I'm having just a mental block putting in the ones where he's not involved. But I get your point, especially if you're playing Josh Allen, McCaffrey. You're already dealing with some salary constraints. If you do that, you definitely can't play like 3 stud receivers. You're paying down at tight end, so you'd be holding hands with a lot of people. But outside of an injury, it's really hard for me to see McCaffrey not paying off. Even 8K, I think you should be more expensive than that.
Yeah, we'll get to the tools because I think the tools will help us a lot with the boom bust tool. A couple of things I'm thinking about. There's still positive leverage going to Christian McCaffrey at the moment if he's going to be 61%. I think my worry is that he just ends up being kind of the same thing that you're thinking, the same thing I'm thinking, where it's like, oh, why wouldn't I just play 100% of him at a running back position that's generally pretty tough to fill out on this slate? A lot of timeshare type situations.
Yeah, a lot of it I think is going to come down to who scores the touchdowns today.
Yep.
And you mentioned McCaffrey does have the highest touchdown expectation, but that doesn't mean other players don't have touchdown expectation. And if a lot of touchdowns are scored on the ground in like the Dallas backfield, maybe you could end up with 2 of them in your lineup, similar to what you said. Plus pricing is also something we'll dive into. If you get a couple scores out of the Buffalo backfield, you're essentially playing the same price for both of those guys that you would be paying for McCaffrey, or at least it's comparable.
Yeah, it's very comparable. I mean, James Cook, Devin Singletary, just pick one, please pick one. It is what it is. But let's dive in. We go position by position here on Live Before Lock. We have all year long. Hit that like button. Let's go, my dude. We start with quarterback, and there's 4. You have 4 of them, unless you're going to do the backup quarterback thing. Don't do the backup quarterback thing. But Josh Allen pulling 41% ownership. I think that's about appropriate. I think just looking at our tools here, optimal. He's got a little bit of negative leverage, but if you decided to play a little bit more, a little bit less Josh Allen, I don't think there's really a wrong way to do it. I do think there's probably a wrong way to go about stacking him. And I'm curious about how you plan to utilize him, because we do at the wide receiver position have Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, 2 of the 3 most popular wide receivers. At tight end, Dawson Knox, 36%. I mean, he's right there with Hayden Hurst, and then Dalton Schultz blowing the tight end position away right now. I'm looking at some interesting ways of utilizing Josh Allen in large field GPPs. I talked about it last week. I almost got away with it because Diggs didn't like completely destroy the second half after having a good first half. Almost got away with the full fade on that. Gabe Davis, I didn't have enough of, but how do you feel about Josh Allen today in large field tournaments?
Yeah, I think he's fine for the reasons you mentioned. And I actually kind of like him from a tournament standpoint because you can get unique with your stacks. This isn't a team that runs the same 3 wide receivers on the field every single play. So you do have a little bit of nuance, especially towards the back end of the roster at receiver, where we don't necessarily know how many snaps Cole Beasley is going to get. Isaiah McKenzie's coming back from an injury. You have the rookie Khalil Shakir dabbling on the field. So it at least gives you sort of a dice roll opportunity to stack some cheap, lower owned players with him that might not necessarily be very owned. So he's not a player I'm avoiding at all. And even if you do run like an Allen to Gabe Davis or to Stephon Diggs, I think throwing on one of those really cheap receivers could be a way to be contrarian too, or maybe just playing him with a running back. All this to say, I think there's enough ways to navigate Josh Allen and be different elsewhere where I'm not really too worried about eating that ownership as long as I make some sort of conscious choice around him where I know that I have the leverage.
How many targets do you think the running back position saw from Buffalo last week?
0.
0 is the answer. I'm glad. Why would you do that? You knew it right off the top of your head. It's almost
I haven't
like you
committed
do
to memory.
Okay.
You're talking to a psychopath, Eric.
I love you. I appreciate that about you too. You've put in the work. It's for me. I'm having a tough time figuring out a different way that is something that makes sense for this game script for how I can utilize Josh Allen and get completely different in a tournament of 150,000 entries. And what I've kind of landed on is just skinnies with Dawson Knox, skinnies of Stephon Diggs, and avoiding Gabe Davis, who I think is going to be very popular, 4,800, and avoiding stacking Josh Allen with the cheap running backs. Now, that can come back and bite me, but I just feel like the receiving equity has been so non-existent here. I mean, you go through James Cook, who, had kind of solidified himself as more of the lead back of late, like a little bit better in terms of the timeshare. Then Devin Singletary shows back up in our lives. These guys are not getting targeted in any way, shape, or form. And so I'm explicitly avoiding playing Josh Allen alongside these running backs. And then in lineups where we get to these other quarterbacks, I'm hoping that it's vulture season where you get to the James Cook, the Devin Singletaries. Obviously I'll play the pass catchers and have no problem with that. Just kind of flipping the build a little bit where I'm getting to more Brock Purdy, and we'll talk about him in a second. But that's kind of my thinking when it comes to Josh Allen, is just avoiding ways that he's not going to be successful. And I think the one way is just, I can't play him. I know they're both cheap and it can work out in that direction too, but I'm just avoiding entirely running backs with Josh Allen. Is that something that's sensical?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, you probably have to force that to happen, because if you run Josh Allen just in any capacity, you're probably going to get, like if you're running an optimizer, that is, you're going to get James Cook and Singletary by default because of their price, especially if you're stacking expensive receivers. And that's the thing with a 2-game slate, is you might walk into some negative correlation just because we have limited options. So I do like your logic there, but also, as a price standpoint, if I have to eat some of that negative correlation, I don't necessarily care that much if, like, James Cook doesn't have a ton of receptions, if he runs in a touchdown or two, and then Josh Allen also has a productive day. I don't think that necessarily matters as long as they end up being the raw highest scoring team on the slate, if that makes sense. But again, you got to think these things through when you're building your lineups, because if you're playing different angles and trying to think of ways to specifically be contrarian, limiting Josh Allen and James Cook and Singletary, for that matter, just being like, I don't want them together, I actually think that could be contrarian because of pricing.
Yep. I'm going to make this quick because it's something that's affecting me right now, and I just would rather say it rather than not. You can say a lot of things in the chat. You can do a lot of things. You start calling other people gay or something in like a derogatory way, you're banned. You're just never going to show up again. It's just inappropriate. And if you, in the year 2023, can't look at something as like normal banter and joke around, and you bring it to a place that's just hurtful, goodbye. So stop doing shit like that. It's just really inappropriate. It's childish, and really it's just sad. So goodbye, good riddance. We continue along with our day. Love who you want to love. We go to the rest of the quarterback position: Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. Lots of other guys that we can utilize there. Joe Burrow, again, what do you think about this weather in Buffalo, Cincinnati? Is this something that for you that you're paying attention to in terms of your lineup building? For me, it's a 2-game slate. You got to use players from both. Maybe you just stack up San Francisco, Dallas, and hope that the weather's a little bit worse. But for me, I'm playing Joe Burrow right around the field. My big stand comes in the later game there. I'm a little bit below on Josh Allen. I'm right around the field on Joe Burrow. How are you planning to utilize him in large field tournaments?
Yeah, plenty of Burrow. I'm not too worried about the weather. The total's still 48.5. If that were to start coming down significantly, then I would really consider that. But I'm not a weatherman. I don't have boots on the ground. So I'm anticipating this being mostly playable for DFS. And Burrow, I think, completely fine to use here. Love the way you can stack him because of the different price points of his receivers. Jamar up top, T in the middle, and Tyler Boyd is a cheaper option, which I particularly like, and we'll talk about that when we get to receiver. But I think there's a lot of ways to use Burrow, and generally speaking, I think the Cincinnati team is the most underpriced as a collective on the slate. So your stacks look really nice. You can jam in other expensive players around him. Burrow's a little cheaper than Allen too. So just naturally, you're going to be able to get more studs at other positions. Burrow's a quarterback I'm going to be trying to make a stand on.
Love it. Brock Purdy, Iowa State. We've been going to the well. The well was very, very filled last week. Are we going back to the well in bulk? I have him in 45% of my lineups right now for this 2-gamer. He's my highest owned quarterback in the other one. For me, this is a price thing combined with a I have really good skill position players thing. Do I think Brock Purdy is this good? I don't know. Like, I knew he was incredible at Iowa State. See the drop-off that we had between last year, this year. Part of that is Breece Hall, one of the best skill players you could possibly have in college football. You had Hutchison, who we'll be talking about next year when he's in the show. Like, very excited about what we had at Iowa State. It is now there in San Francisco with Brock Purdy. I find him to be really fun to stack up. You can go to Kittle, Ayuk, McCaffrey. Obviously, we know the pass catching prowess there. And my guy, Deebo Samuel, who I have tons of. Juwan Jennings was a flyer that the boss man brought up at the tail end of last show. He's cheap. Gives you access to every player. And if I'm going to leave salary on the table on a slate like today, I think Brock Purdy is going to be my quarterback to be able to help me do it. Are you on board with a guy who's pretty good in Brock Purdy?
Good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like Brock Purdy. And I like him from a standpoint that I don't need to take a huge stand on him. You want to mix in some Brock Purdy to a portfolio of lineups. He's right around 15%. So to get over the field on him, you could play him in a quarter of your lineups. I think you said you were around like 50, 40%?
45% right now. Yeah. Brock.
So you've got a stance that's over double the field, and you don't even need to go that crazy if you just want to sprinkle him in. And I think you said the best thing about him is that a lot of times San Francisco doesn't even need to rely on his skill set. Deebo, Kittle, McCaffrey, Ayuk, these are all very skilled players, especially yards after catch style players, which is how this offense has worked a lot, propping up players like Garoppolo and now Purdy coming in. And the one thing I like about Purdy that I don't think the NFL family has really gotten to see yet is he has decent mobility. He's not like Lamar Jackson or anything out there, but he's also not a statue in the pocket. He has good scramble ability. He was a good rusher at Iowa State, and that's not something they've really used a lot. But could he be a player that ends up with like 20 yards rushing, like a decent floor there? Yeah, I think so. And he doesn't really have that, at least on paper yet, or he hasn't displayed that yet to this point in the NFL. But definitely not a pocket statue. We know Dallas is going to be generating some pass rush. That's a very good component of their defense. If he's evading that, not taking sacks, maybe that could just lead to scrambles. So I actually like the floor he gives you too as a rusher.
Agreed.
Yeah, you watch Iowa State, you know he can run.
Oh yeah, no, he's a stud. He's a stud. And again, he was Mr. Irrelevant. Did I think he would be this good? No, I don't. But I did know that even if he was going to be unsuccessful, that he would at least make good decisions. Like, he's a good decision maker. He reminds me of like an Alex Smith to a certain extent, who had some success, Kansas City and San Francisco. Well, also had lack of success because he didn't necessarily. Maybe Brock even has a better arm than Alex Smith had. I don't really know how to gauge that at this point in time. It's been all of a 6-game sample size, 8-game sample size, or whatever we have now for Brock. But I feel pretty good about him being cheap. I feel pretty good about him over top of Dak Prescott in the same game. And this is a spot where last week we saw Dak go out and torch Tampa Bay. I think at 6,100, if you were a little bit cheaper like he was last week, I would be more into it. I don't know what to do with him. He's been the guy that I've struggled with. I've been a little bit off of, and then, completely goes nuts like last week. Almost bypassed some of my Brock Purdy stacks at the end, but held strong for the most part. How do you feel about Dak Prescott, who I think is the absolute wild card of this game?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about him because right now I'm under, which is kind of concerning considering he's also coming in around 15%. But I've been listening to some shows, especially over the weekend and this morning, and the sentiment on him hasn't been great. So I do agree with our tools here that he's probably going to be under-owned on the context of this slate. And at what point is that just too much? Because he is CeeDee Lamb, he has Dalton Schultz, we have Gallup, we have cheap receivers we can use too. I told you I was tinkering with my lineups. He's a player I'm considering trying to add more of, but as it stands right now, for the reasons you mentioned, he's my least owned quarterback. This is just an ownership game for me. Like, what is the point where I want to start making a little bit more of a stand with him? So I'm playing a portfolio of lineups, but right now I've been gravitating to Purdy over him.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's for me, I don't want to be holding the hands of every single lineup on this entire slate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have 40% Allen, 25% Burrow, and just like playing it straight up based on like what I should be. I want to have some stands. So for me, Brock Purdy's that stand. I'm lighter on Dak Prescott. I'm lighter on Josh Allen. I'm about at Burrow, and I'm just going way over on Purdy because it allows me to get different. It allows me to get those same players everybody else is playing, but then leaving salary on the table. And I think that's the easiest way to avoid a lot of duplication here. And it's a large amount of it doesn't take like what is it, $700 difference on DK between Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. You have $1,100 there between Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow. You leave $500 on the table with a Brock Purdy lineup. Nobody else has access to it. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to build. I'm trying to remain unique within mostly the salary cap, but yeah, that's not something I've really considered, but I think it's definitely a way to increase your leverage for sure.
Anything else you want to talk about quarterbacks? I wanted to spend some time because, this is an opportunity to literally talk about each one, some of the stacks and some of the stuff we're coming up, how we're going to be building out lineups going forward on a 2-gamer.
No, I think we did a good job. If you have questions, of course, always ask them.
Cool. Let's check in on overlay over on No House Advantage, shall we? I think that's a good time to do this. NoHouseAdvantage.com. This is the best spot you could possibly go for your bankroll every single day of the week. It doesn't matter if it's NFL, NBA, they have for the house props. We're talking massive amounts of overlay right now. Less than half full, 43% on the Sunday divisional round, 15K to first. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And if you guys never played over there, you don't know what you're missing. You have player props, and we have tools to help you build out for that instantly over at Stokastic. You simply go to the NFL tab, you scroll down to No House Advantage, projections. We have the NHA NFL optimal lineups all sitting right there for you at the Stokastic site. So check that out in conjunction with signing up over at No House Advantage using promo code Stokastic to get $100 first match deposit bonus. It's just so easy to explain because overlay is the number one way you can ensure you have an edge. Period. It doesn't matter. It's not just the tools that we have that I guarantee we're going to give you an edge, but overlay just mathematically gives you positive EV for anything you're putting together. We're playing player props over there. You put them in terms of confidence, 10 through 1 point. And at that 10-point spot, you put the ones you're the most confident in, one, the least confident, but so many great player props to pick from every single day over there. And now the for the house to against the house, you have an opportunity to play just like you do at some of the other sites that have, 2, 3, 4, 5 player props, but you're getting paid out on a little bit better curve because you're getting 21x your money for going 5 out of 5, whereas it's 10x at a lot of other places. So they are a better spot for your player props in every single way, shape, or form, whether that's against the house or against peer-to-peer. That is the format there where you're getting all of that great overlay. So take advantage of that right now. Again, half full, less than half full as we speak right now. So check out No House Advantage. We'll check back in with them here a little bit later in our program, but we go to the super chats here. Let me pull it up. Super chat. I will find it. Don't mind me. Jordan Klein, you sent me over everything, I believe, because you're a great producer and lovely and things. All right. We have first one, Corey Williams, $4.99. What's each of your guys' preferred stack today and one player in each stack to be unique? For me, going Brock Purdy, Juwan Jennings. Nobody has that.
I knew you were going to take Brock Purdy from me.
Of course I was.
Hey, that's a good one. So I have two ideas I really like using, and a guy I want to talk about a lot later is Tyler Boyd. I like using Burrow with Boyd specifically. Now, that doesn't prevent you from using Chase or T. Higgins in that lineup, but Boyd's at a price point where I think you can pivot off some 2 tight end builds. That's going to be popular if you're using an optimizer. You're getting a lot of like Knox, Hurst. You pay up a little bit more from like Hurst to Boyd. That's a way to be contrarian. You're also using a different receiver from that offense that people aren't necessarily using. And it's also a slight pay up spot from like your T.Y. Hiltons. So I think Boyd's going to provide quite a bit of leverage. And then if you're using Josh Allen, I like playing roulette essentially with the Cole Beasley's, Khalil Shakir's, and Isaiah McKenzie's.
Shakira. Noah Levinson, $1.99. Eric, this reminds me of the Malik Willis take. That was not a good take. Well, also because I played a ton of Malik Willis. It was the week that he was like under 5K starting for Tennessee against Houston. Yeah. And I was like, oh, he's direct leverage off of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry goes for over 202 tutties and destroyed the world. And Malik Willis just handed the ball to him.
He threw like 4 passes.
Like 4 passes. So very different because one, skill position players a little bit better on the San Francisco 49ers. And two, Brock Purdy throws the football. Malik Willis out of Liberty. Did I get that right?
He went to Auburn,
Liberty,
then transferred
Liberty.
Auburn, then transferred there. Bo Nix ran him out of town.
That.
Then
is
Auburn
he going to be good, or
coach.
is he just a terrible pick?
Who?
Malik
Willis? He's a project, man. He needs a lot of work. He's like Hurts. It's not going to be good right away, but if you surround him with the right talent, I think he has the potential. But
yeah, he could use an AJ Brown type down there in Tennessee.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, guys. Corey Ballmer, $2. Purdy QB, Schultz and Boyd, or Ayuk and Hurst DK. So he's got Purdy at QB, Schultz and Boyd, or Ayuk and Hurst.
I'm going to default to this stack. Assuming you're not playing any other 49ers, I would try to stack Purdy.
Yeah, I'll assume you have McCaffrey, and it's probably okay. I would probably, in pure projection, pick Schultz and Boyd.
Agreed.
But Ayuk, Hurst. Hurst is going to be popular too over on DK. So there's that. Paying attention to it. And last one, we have Boyd, Gallup, or TY for DK. Which is your favorite punt wide receiver between that trio? Boyd, Gallup, or TY?
It's Boyd for me.
Cool. And thank you very much for the clap emojis there too. I saw the great super chat there. So appreciate you guys. Let's go to the running back position here and continue on our merry way. We discussed McCaffrey. No question. If you fade McCaffrey and he doesn't do well, yay. If he has a normal football game, you're probably going to need him in your lineup at 8K. Like if you gave me his projection of 21, I'd probably take him. I'd probably just play him in every lineup. I'm probably with you there, but there's enough ways, I think, just at his ownership. Now I'm questioning myself too, because you look at the boom bust tool, he has positive leverage going. I'm just worried we get to lock and he's like 78% owned.
Yeah. And I mean, think about your contest. If you're playing higher dollar stuff, he's going to be more than that. If you're playing, I don't know, he's going to be highly owned everywhere is the right answer. But like you're playing the dime time or something really low dollar, he's probably not going to be as owned as he should be. That's how I'm looking at that. But ultimately, you said it. There's enough ways to be contrarian around him where I have no issues eating the ownership.
Well, now we go to the running back position everywhere else. And if you're not taking the de facto Christian McCaffrey, I got to say, I think 3 running back builds are going to be very rare, few and far between today. Would you agree with that?
Yes, you're not getting them at all in optimizers.
Yeah, I'm trying to force myself to get to a little bit. I just don't know who I want it to be. I uploaded my lineups already, but I'm going to tweak a couple things as we're talking through it. Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine. They played a Baltimore defense. I really believe in that Baltimore defense. I have all season long. They almost led Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown basically lost that football game at the 1-yard line. So I will say Cincinnati should probably feel pretty fortunate that they're there. But Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, neither of them as involved as we would want them to be. Perine cut into that snap share massively, actually played more snaps than Joe Mixon. But of course, Joe Mixon got all of the workload, 11 carries to Samaje Perine's 2. How are you looking at this Bengals backfield?
Yeah, I think it's closer than people assume. They have most of the season before Mixon got hurt where he's the workhorse. And then Perine played really well in his absence, and it's been closer to a 50-50 timeshare. Now, it's not equal, but Perine's going to be involved. He's going to be involved in any sort of game script. Last week was a highly competitive game that arguably they should have lost. That play where Anthony Brown fumbled at the 1-yard line was like, if you look at like post-game win expectancy and the probability of the Bengals winning that game, it was like a 40% swing on one play alone. And bringing this back to Perine, he's involved across all sorts of game scripts. They've used him a lot as a third down back in the past, so he does have pass catching equity here. And he's not priced like a timeshare back. You look at Mixon versus Perine in terms of pricing, and Perine with his ownership, no one's going to play him. I actually think he's a decent contrarian leverage play today. I'm definitely playing some Perine. Now, you don't really need to play a ton to have more than the field here, so I'd be careful. I wouldn't go all in on him, but I think Perine is more involved than people think.
Yeah, we have right now at Stokastic, Samaje Perine projected for a little bit higher ownership than Eli Mitchell. I would be floored if that ended up being the case.
Agreed. I don't think it will.
Yeah, you're talking about a road running back in a timeshare as opposed to a home running back favorite who we've seen be explosive and has the more dynamic offense. Just,
yeah, I think it's closer to like the Singletary situation than people think.
Yeah, I think Eli Mitchell will probably end up being a little bit more popular. It's Samaje Perine right now, a little bit lower projection. If you just saw that on the paper, I would just take more Eli Mitchell, no doubt about it. But I think that it's probably going to work out the inverse there. So just something that I'm going to be paying attention to here as we get closer to lock. 25 minutes left to go. Get your dummy lineups in. All of my lineups are dummy lineups, but I don't know where to go with that joke. Let's continue on to other running back situations like Dallas. There's two of those. Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. I hate this. That's all.
It's tough. I mean, I think Pollard is without a doubt going to be more owned, but yes. I think this is also a 50-50 committee for the most part, with Zeke, at least to this point, getting a little more red zone work and Pollard getting a little more work between the 20s, which he's been able to maximize through explosive plays. But there's a real chance here that Ezekiel Elliott handles all of like the money touches in the goal line when they get down to that area of the field. In 2-game slate, I'm really interested in the touchdown equity. So I think the pricing's right. I think the projection's right, but I do think there's some hidden upside with Ezekiel Elliott that people aren't considering. And if you're running optimizers, anything like that, they're all just giving you Devin Singletary for $200 less. Like on DraftKings, Ezekiel Elliott just paying the extra $200 for him versus Devin Singletary versus James Cook. That's another way to gain leverage here in a spot where I think there's clear upside via touchdowns.
Oh boy. Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott has positive leverage in the boom bust tool. He's 5,400. If you're going to use up some salary, I wouldn't want to have more than 700 on the table, because replacing lineups with just straight up what could be Tony Pollard feels wrong to me. Like, it just feels wrong to me. Agreed. In terms of like upside to win you a tournament. But on a 2-game slate, I mean, all you need is Zeke to get a goal line carry and have that be the difference maker. Tony Pollard doesn't get as involved in the passing game. He's been less involved here the last couple of weeks than what I was anticipating when I was breaking it down. I thought Tony Pollard was somebody that, 8 targets against Philadelphia week 16. He sat out week 17, week 18, 0, 3 targets for 12 against Tampa. I guess they didn't really need to put the pedal to the metal there. They had that game pretty much start to finish, but I'm playing more Zeke than I'm comfortable with right now, just because I'm trying to find paths to get different. But in a lot of those Brock Purdy lineups, which are almost half of mine, I'm just playing Pollard because I think he's the more explosive back. And if that game shoots out like I want it to over top of Cincinnati Buffalo, hard to believe that it's not Tony Pollard, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. And last,
in your Purdy lineups, like, how much more leverage do you need?
Yeah, not much. That's probably the right way of saying it. Just give me the better back. That's for sure. Give me the better back. But James Cook, Devin Singletary, Nyheim Hines is a person who plays special teams. He's 4,200. We didn't think Gainwell was going to do anything. Nyheim Hines runs a touchdown for, a punt return touchdown. You get the correlation with the D. 4,200 for Nyheim Hines in a 150K entry tournament is not the craziest thing I've ever thought of in my entire life. He's projected for 0% ownership. I don't think that's going to be the case. But Gainwell was sub 1% on a 4-game slate. It wouldn't surprise me to see Nyheim Hines 1% today.
Yeah, I'm not playing him, so wouldn't be surprised at all.
I've got 2% of him. I'm just jamming him over here.
You're double the field.
He's explicitly with Buffalo Bills defense. I want to throw that out there.
You're double the field, man.
Double the field. All it takes is a James Cook getting dinged up and Devin Singletary going to the blue tent, and then I'm set. That's all. That's the only run out I'm looking for. James Cook or Devin Singletary, pick one to save your life.
James Cook.
All right, me too. 4,800. I'm going that way. Seems like he's just going to get, I don't know, an equal ownership. I think I'll take the guy who's 400 less. But anything else whatsoever at running back for you?
I don't think so. I think we hit everything. We touched on Mitchell and Perine. I think that's it.
Love it. We go to a super chat. Corey Williams. This is a good one, and I think it leads us into the wide receiver position because my guy is there. $1.99. One guy you wish you had more of, and why aren't you getting there?
Probably Dak. For me, we talked about him in the beginning, and it's just he's a talented quarterback of an offense that has really good skill position players, and I'm not getting there because of the alternatives, Josh Allen, Burrow, and then for the salary saving option, Purdy, I think, is more than live. So that's why, but I don't feel good about it. I'll say that.
Yeah. The guy I'm not getting to is Michael Gallup. I wish I was getting more of him because I obviously am very high on this game. I have the Brock Purdy side. But with my lineups, I'm not going to leave $4,000 or $5,000 on the table and roster Gallup instead of CeeDee Lamb. So, like, if Gallup has a big game, I'm probably in a lot of trouble. I'm currently way under the field on 17% of him. And it's just because I don't want to leave unlimited salary on the table.
I am a little over the field on Gallup, but not by anything substantial.
All right, we'll get to that one here in a second. But first, BetMGM. First bet insurance up to $1,000 in a legal betting state. That's fantastic. Free bet insurance. That just means you can bet up to $1,000 and you will get that money back in free in what is it? In bonus bets. There we go. We had to find exactly what it was. But first bet insurance up to $1,000 along with 2 months of Stokastic Platinum completely free for you. Take advantage of that right now. All of these bonus bets that you get, 2 free months of Stokastic. You're watching a DFS show. So, hey, you guys don't want to be playing, you don't want to be sports betting all that much. That's fine. No big deal. Take advantage of the 2 free months of Stokastic when you put, $50 in. Put $50 in, play that first bet, get yourself access to a lot of great tools and content, everything that I'm referring to in terms of projections for ownership projections, player projections. That's going to take you all the way through the NFL season. Why wait now? Just take that first free month. If you're playing NBA, we'll be shortly having baseball end of March. That is just wild to think about. The baseball's on the horizon now as the football season winds down. But use promo code Platinum Sub or sign up in the description box below. If you have a gambling problem, text or call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's all. Look at that. Greg Ehrenberg. Oh, looking up with the headphones on. Got his headphones on, living his life.
He was a wise fellow.
Screen frozen. I just love it. I just love it. Let's go to the wide receiver position. I think this is where this and tight end, we're going to be spending the most amount of time rounding out our lovely little show. God, I said lovely again. I got to stop. Ja'Marr Chase, Stefon Diggs, pick one.
In a vacuum, it's Diggs.
How about in a broom?
Diggs.
How about in
a Joe Burrow stack?
Wrench.
Chase.
Okay, there you go. Cool.
There's a very, very difficult. It's basically splitting hairs. Either one of them could have the ceiling game. Diggs has a slightly better projection. He's on the team with the best team total on the slate. He has less target competition, at least like less talented target competition around him. These are all like the little hairs I'm splitting to get to slightly more Diggs than Chase, but by no means am I fading Chase, playing plenty of Burrow. Chase is a staple of those lineups. He's also been, I feel like, more of a focal point on the stretch. You look at his target share since he returned from injury. Like historically, him and T. Higgins have been pretty close, but down the latter half of this season, Ja'Marr Chase was very clearly the priority over T. Higgins. So he does have plenty of target upside himself, but in a vacuum, it's Stefon Diggs.
How about in a broom? Diggs. I don't know. It was the next cleaning thing I could think of. It just, I don't know. Stuff happens. And then the fact that you just said it so dryly with no inflection whatsoever, like honestly answering my question made me so happy. I have so much CeeDee Lamb and Deebo Samuel that I could just die today. Like if they don't do things, if I watched Ja'Marr Chase and Stefon Diggs go for infinity fantasy points in that first game, I'm not going to be thrilled because again, I'm just more heavily in line with that game. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but CeeDee Lamb, please do your thing, sir. And then Dak Prescott somehow don't get there. So I'm kind of looking at a tight little outcome there for sure. But Ja'Marr Chase, Stefon Diggs, they make a lot of sense. I'm just landing into the CD side of things. He's the lowest owned of that trio. I feel like he's going to be slept on here. As we go to the boom bust tool too, an opportunity for you guys to get positive leverage once more with Deebo Samuel. I don't know how many times to say it. The guy is the exception to every rule. They can line him up anywhere. He can do everything. I got made fun of for how much I loved him week 18. He played over 2/3 of the snaps anyway. First game back. It's like they just put him in bubble wrap. And I don't know. I feel really, really good about that tandem today. CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, my whole day hinges on it. Have almost 90% of both of them. That'll surely go well for me.
I definitely don't have that much. I'm pulling it up right
85%
now.
85% CeeDee Lamb and 92% Deebo Samuel.
I am right on the field with CeeDee Lamb. Deebo Samuel is my highest owned receiver, which I did not know.
You just found that out now?
Yes. Well, it makes sense. Like for one, I'm playing plenty of Purdy, not quite as much as you, but I'm over the field. I don't have this for a fact, but I would guess he's in close to 100% of those. And then he makes pretty good sense as a one-off just from a price perspective.
Yeah.
You know, when you're playing the studs on this slate, say you jam in Chase and you jam in Diggs. Well, Debo's only 5,900. It's not like he's hard to get in there. Basically, you're deciding, all right, do I want to play T. Higgins or Debo? Debo is super easy to fit.
He's very easy to fit. He fits into so many lineups so easily. That's why he's more popular. Last week on a 6-game slate, he was like 5%. He goes completely nuts. It's a 2-gamer, of course, so he's going to be around 35% here today. Makes a lot of sense. You see somebody more involved than other people might have anticipated, played north of 75% of the snaps. The game got out of hand at the end, didn't have to necessarily be in there at the very, very end. Became just handed to Eli Mitchell and let him go for negative yardage. I think he had 9 for 2 yards. That was hilarious to look at too, but feel pretty good about Debo. Obviously that's why he's my highest owned player, period, on the slate. T. Higgins into this mid-range, Tyler Boyd. This whole situation feels just a little bit murky for me. Buffalo, Tre'Davious White's played under 300 snaps of football this season. I think he's only going to get better and better. He's not a midway, half of the middle of the league cornerback, in my opinion. I think just having more snaps underneath his belt, I think that's just a positive here for him, for this Buffalo Bills secondary. I'm not going completely nuts on some of the ancillary pieces outside of T. Higgins. I have a ton of T. Higgins in this mid-range, hoping that it's not Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. Goes back towards me trying to find ways to leave salary on the table. In my Josh Allen stacks, getting a little bit cheaper at wide receiver and not playing Gabe Davis. And then in San Francisco, I don't have to think about it too much because I'm just leaving it by default. How do you feel about T. Higgins in this Cincinnati situation for the cheapies that aren't Jamar Chase?
Yeah, I like T. Higgins in this range outside of Debo. Well, I mean, it's basically just a 2-man race, which I have a lot of. So I guess let's frame it this way. For me personally, I think you're either going into like 3 different tier buckets once you're outside the studs. You're doing either like a stars and scrubs thing where you play like a Debo, a T, and then you go all the way down to like a T.Y. Hilton, a McKenzie, something like that. Or you can play 2 guys in this mid-range like Brandon Ayuk and Gabe Davis. And my preferred build has been more of the stars and scrubs. So going like a Debo, going to a T.Y. Hilton, and not having as much Gabe Davis and Brandon Ayuk. So on top of Debo Samuel, that includes T. Higgins. So that range is a lot more popular in my lineups. So 2 of the receivers I'm coming in way under on are Ayuk and Gabe Davis. And then kind of by proxy, T. Higgins and Debo Samuel are pretty high in my wide receiver portfolio right now. So I like T quite a bit. And part of this too is like you can go down from Brandon Ayuk to Tyler Boyd and maybe get some leverage off the higher owned Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And he's a full-time player. And the projection difference between them isn't quite enough where I just like, okay, I want to go up to Ayuk and make that a priority. Like I'll go down and I'll save with Boyd and I have no problem with that.
Me too. I don't want to get to as much Boyd. He's 21%. So I guess Boyd's the one that I'm not really there. T. Higgins though, please, sir, take all of the Cincinnati offense. I would be just fine with that. Gabe Davis, please do not do well. I should probably actually give a little bit of a bump to Boyd as we're talking about it here, just because he definitely would benefit a little bit more if I try to get under on the Chase situation. I think, I'm going to get a little bit more Boyd here as we finish it out, but let's go sub 4K, try to win somebody a tournament with a deep, deep flyer. Not Michael Gallup for me, I can tell you that much. Please don't do it. Juwan Jennings, be the hero Gotham deserves. Isaiah McKenzie, if it decides to be him, I'd be all right with that. And Shakira, really low in terms of projection. Cole Beasley is active for this one. They do not have John Brown there. Kind of solidifies both of those two into more opportunities at a flat 3K. I think if you're playing Josh Allen, you could do worse than stacking them up there. Who are you looking to utilize the most sub 4K?
So my approach is to kind of spray and pray with these guys. I do not want to have one of these guys be what like cost me a day. So I want to be like 80% Cole Beasley and then have him play like 30% of the snaps. I would rather spread this out, mainly correlating. So in the Buffalo lineups, the cheapies I'm using are obviously Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie. I don't have a ton of Dak, so I don't have as much Gallup either, kind of in conjunction with you. A little bit of T.Y. Hilton just because he's extremely cheap and seemingly playing a larger role in the offense. But I do think T.Y. Hilton is going to be the most popular of this group, probably more so than McKenzie. It's close in our projections, but I do think T.Y. comes in a little more owned. And I think he's extremely fragile. So I just want to touch on this for a second. He's still splitting snaps with Noah Brown. They use Noah Brown in very specific packages. They're very different receivers. T.Y. Hilton, smaller, aging field stretcher. Noah Brown's like a big body, like stock blocking receiver, which is weird to say that's probably his primary skill set. But it does mean their snap shares are almost even because they're used in different packages. And then Dallas actually used a fair amount of 12 personnel last week, and they've done that at times this year. I don't know what their game plan is here, but if they do that and you see more Jake Ferguson on the field, it's not CD and it's not Gallup coming off the field. It's T.Y. Hilton. So I think he's fragile. I still have some, but to sum this up, I do not want this range to be what makes or breaks my day.
100% agree. It shouldn't be something that you're getting a ton of somebody whatsoever. For me, I'm getting a ton of that mid-range because I don't know where else to go, in terms of finding wide receiver upside to get different. So there's that. I also got to say, with 10 minutes left to go, I got a lot more Christian McCaffrey than I was expecting now on my second run. So I have the money to get to as much of him as possible. I'm just going to play him. He's positively leveraged. If he ends up 75% owned, so be it. I'm okay with it at a position like running back that is garbage. It's complete garbage today. That's the word I was looking for. Let's go to tight end, shall we?
Let's do it.
Also, no house advantage, still tons of overlay. No reason that you shouldn't be signing up there. Takes you all of about 5 minutes to one, sign up, two, be able to just copy and paste lineups from the NHA lineups tool that we have here at Stokastic. So do that. How about you do that right now? Look at this overlay. It's just absurd. Just absurd. Cool. Let's go to the tight end position, top end. Dalton Schultz went completely insane last week. He's 4,200. His price went down 100. What are we doing here? What are we doing here, Matt Gajewski?
Playing him. He's my most owned Cowboy. It's a really gross tight end position. He's on the field every single play, regardless of what they do with their two tight end packages. And I think you could honestly argue he's the most consistent receiver on this team outside CD Lamb. I think he's just, if you're ranking pass catchers, the second guy you look to. And the way tight ends are priced, he's still too cheap. If this was like if he had the wide receiver tag instead of the tight end tag, he'd probably be like 5,600. So he's a very easy play for me. I think you can run two tight end builds. And if you're doing that, I think he'd probably be one of them.
Is Dawson Knox going to catch a touchdown for the sixth straight game today?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I'm so annoyed by this human being. We've got him, Hayden Hurst, George Kittle. Those are the only three other tight ends that are polling ownership. I'll give you one deep flyer to round out the entire show here. Somebody that I have a little bit more than you would expect of at 2,500. But amongst those other three that I just listed off, who's your next favorite to get to?
It's going to be Hurst. It's more of a price thing for him. I don't see there being a drastic opportunity difference between Knox, Hurst, these other tight ends on the slate. So I can just go all the way down to 3,200, and I'll use that salary to get up to McCaffrey in places, try to get an extra stud. I do think it does make a difference.
Okay. Just wanted to throw it out there.
Is your min price stud Jake Ferguson?
Yes, it is. I love that you knew that right away.
Pride of Wisconsin.
Why wouldn't we play a little Jake Ferguson at 2,500 to get a little different? He was running around on the field a little bit last week.
Yeah, man, they increased their 12 personnel significantly.
Yeah, big time.
He's a good receiver.
Well, even just hearing that makes me like it a little bit more. I have 8% of Jake Ferguson at 2,500.
I like it. I have a little bit, not quite that much, but he's going to be unowned.
Yeah, he's unowned, but I'm playing him primarily with Josh Allen. That's, again, on builds where I'm trying to find that 1 point of deviation, 1 point of differentiation. Hopefully he can be that guy. Be that guy, pal. Be that guy. Let's round it out with defense, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Bills, 49ers, Cowboys, Bengals. There are 4 of them. We have to play one. Who are you playing the most?
I'm playing the Bills the most. I was surprised to see this ownership pretty flat. The Bills are the highest on defense, but not to a point where it's like, all right, let's just X them out and then be contrarian from here. You're not gaining a ton of leverage one way or another by fading any particular defense. Bills are favored. If you've been watching any sort of NFL content throughout the week, a lot of mainstream media content has talked about the Bengals offensive line and the absences they're going to have today. It already was a unit that was struggling, and now they're down 3 starters against a Bills pass rush, which is pretty good. So there's a lot of opportunity for potential turnovers, and game script should work in their favor here. They're also priced at a point that surprised me. They're the second cheapest defense now, not by a lot, but again, I think every dollar does matter on this slate. So the Bills are my highest on defense, not by a wide margin, but I think that's why, to break it down.
All right, couple super chats here, and then we'll get our final thoughts out. We'll get ourselves the heck up out of here to watch football for the last 4 game slate that we had this weekend. So sad. Only 2 games next week. We'll be back here for Live Before Lock, covering everything for you. The ins, the outs, the inevitable Philadelphia, Kansas City smashes.
And XFL in February.
Oh, God, don't even say that. James McGruder, $1.99. Gallup or Hurst, Bengals or Buffalo defense? So both of those. Gallup or Hurst?
Gallup.
I'll go Hurst. And Bengals or Buffalo defense?
Buffalo.
Buffalo as well. Cool. We continue to Sam Schaefer, $5. P. Ryan projecting at 16% ownership. Does that seem high? Yes, because he is projected right around 12. And even that, I feel like Eli Mitchell is going to be higher around. That's just my guess.
I agree.
It's like a gut feeling. And you don't want to be doing too much DFS with your gut as opposed to with numbers. And maybe I'm just way off base with that, but there are people hand building that are pretty difficult to account for, I would think, in the algorithm.
I agree.
So we'll be doing that. Matt, 4 minutes to go. We're going to get ourselves out of here in just 1 second. But anything that stands out as you build, did you finish up all your lineups?
They're done. I did it. I made some tough decisions, but I've settled in.
What would you say to the people right now with 4 minutes left, if they're out there hand building a couple before or after church, before sitting down at the dinner table here with their family? What is the thing that they need to know that's going to win them $1 million today?
I think how you navigate the studs in conjunction with each other. So these are all players I want to play, but for those of you, like if you're hand building a lineup and you're going down the studs, you click in Josh Allen, you click in Christian McCaffrey, you click in Stephon Diggs, be very careful what you do with the rest of those clicks. Otherwise, you are going to be holding hands with everybody in the field.
Agreed. I'm just finding ways to get different. I think that's been the theme for me. Whenever I play these shorter slates, NFL, what's the under-owned path?
We forgot to talk about Kittle.
Oh, well, Kittle, he's just coming along for the ride in a lot of my Brock Purdy stacks for sure. I like him the most out of those other 3. So I have Dalton Schultz, then George Kittle. I have at 33%, Dawson Knox at 25%, Hurst at 12.5. I actually got to 10% Jake Ferguson in my last run that I just uploaded.
Let's go, Badgers.
That's going to be dead money. But anyway, George Kittle, any thoughts you wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, I like Kittle. He's actually my lowest owned tight end, but it's not by any wide margin again here. Tight end, I'm pretty spread across the board. But Kittle, I do think will be contrarian mainly based on price. He's probably the wide receiver 3 if you were to include him amongst Ayuk and Samuel, coming off a big game, so people might play him more than they should. But he's going to be volatile, but if you just were to rank these tight ends based on ceiling, he by far is the highest. All
right, I took Debo down just a tiny bit because, again, I didn't need 90-something% of him. But
I'm at 80.
Yeah, no, I'm at 72 now. 72. Okay, that's a more manageable number. Part of what happened is I ended up just getting more McCaffrey because I have the money, and the money is mine. The money. Do you know what that's from? Why would you? No. Vegas vacation. Good talk. Glad we had it. Anything else as we get out of here?
Thank you guys for watching here on a 2-game slate on a Sunday. Enjoy all these slates. Eric mentioned we don't have a lot. I mean, unless you're a psychopath like me and you want to watch XFL. Hey, they have some good players. Josh Gordon got drafted.
No way.
Yeah, Josh Gordon's on a team. And so is Martavis Bryant. That league's going to be electric.
Martavis Bryant?
Yeah, he's playing.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, okay. Sorry. That was supposed to be a thank you to the community, and I got distracted. But thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you all.
You can't wait to crunch spreadsheets for guys that are going to be projected for like a 45% target share. Like, why would you do anything other than feed Josh Gordon the football game for the entire football game?
If they do that, I'm going to watch every game.
It's going to be incredible. Guys, hit that like button as we get out of here. Thank you to No House Advantage. Make sure you do check out their great product that they have going. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein for doing such a lovely job producing. And thank you so much to you all for being a supportive, awesome community. Appreciate you all. Loco threw it in there. 2-touchdown day for Kittle. Your lips to God's ears. I'd be all right with that. I feel like I'm going to be a little bit overweight. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'll be back for NBA Live Before Lock with Josh Engelman. The grind never stops, baby. We keep it going. I'll have NBA, Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks coming out on the Odd Chopper channel. Check that out too if you guys want to check out a little extra betting content. Peace. Watch some football. Enjoy.